When I first got into biochar, it was like, I can turn this waste, this biomass waste, into something that actually feeds the things that I want to feed. We actually launched Black Gold BioChar this last November.
Why specifically black gold?
Because it is gold. I'm putting treasure in the ground. We're working with some legislatures in Iowa. They've been using the big chemical side of things. There's no carbon in their soil anymore.
No way, that bad.
It's that bad.
Wow.
To the point where like their water's undrinkable.
How does this relate to polarity therapy?
Polarity therapy recognizes our biofield anatomy. A lot of couples, when they're always around each other, they depolarize because they're always in each other's field. And because they're always coming and touching neutral, they neutralize each other.
Topher Gardner, round 2. Good to have you back, man.
Glad to be back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You previously held the record for the longest.
You guys cut what you edited. I actually recorded longer than what you put out.
What did we record?
4 hours and 24 minutes.
Still would have been the second longest episode.
Really? How long did you?
My German New Medicine episode was what? You had to leave during it. Reese wasn't here. Reese's mom's on set too, Rebecca. Shout out to Rebecca and Reese.
Shout out Rebecca, Reese.
Rebecca had to leave during the recording of the episode. We had just left the cameras on when we recorded that one on German New Medicine. I don't know. I think it was like 4 hours and 30 something minutes recorded.
Oh, my heart's broken.
Yeah. Well, we'll see if we can break it on.
Awesome.
See if I can handle it. I'm in the middle of a raw milk cleanse right now. And we were talking before, like I have a lot of frustration and emotional stuff coming up. It's part of the experience though. So I think we wanted to discuss kind of where we left off last time in talking about biochar, because that's like, I'm not going to say it's your main shtick, but like that's like that's your bread and butter.
Yeah.
You have a lot of bread and butters. You have a lot of different loaves of bread, but that is one of them.
Well, it's like I actually kicked off my company in 2025. So I had been making the actual units for people to do it yourself, like kilns.
Uh-huh.
And even when I was in Costa Rica and I had a pretty decent amount of people that I had educated over the years, everybody down there started telling me, hey, I just want the biochar. I don't want the kiln. I don't want to deal with that. And I'm sort of a slow learner. So when I moved back to the States and everything like that, I was still looking at like teaching people, hey, you could build the kiln. And the messaging from my environment was still the same thing. Like, no. Just sell me the biochar.
Yeah.
So it took about 3 years to, figure out our process and get our location and find the right, partners and everything like that. And so we actually launched Black Gold BioChar this last November.
Why black gold?
My wife. So we did some polling, like in my little network and in my own podcast, and almost nobody saw biochar in BioCharisma. So I've had the BioCharisma moniker since 2011. And I always thought it was really cool because it's like biocharisma,
I knew what it meant after knowing what you do.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But like, when I look at all the statistics and stuff like that and ask the question, like the term biochar is not really on people's minds. So they think of bio and charisma. And of course that's in there. That's why it's a unique name. But in branding, like the branding thing is like, you need to have like a clear thing. And since this is the first product I've ever really sold, it was like Black Gold BioChar. People like the association was like immediate, like, yes. And so we just ran with it. And then a friend of mine that makes really incredible logos and stuff like that, she really liked that and like the logo that she could make for us and the different packaging that she could make for us. It worked better with the Black Gold BioChar.
But why specifically black gold?
Because it is gold.
Okay.
Because I've had a bunch of CEOs in my life, as clients and things like that. And they've always been like chirping in my ear, like what they've regretted and what they've gained from, their owning companies and selling things and all that. And they always were talking to me about word associations. And so for a long time, people would say like, black was trendy and all this stuff. And the product I make is jet black. It's like the darkest black that you could get. And like the association with gold is just like, oh, this is like, I'm putting treasure in the ground. And it just works because, especially after seeing the photos of Dr. Marzel Arce, Have you, I think I sent this
So
to you.
I purposefully did not watch any of it.
Okay.
I know that it's going to relate to microzyma
Yes.
in biochar. I wanted to discuss it on this and have a like actual reaction to it.
Oh my
That's why.
goodness. So you're doing this raw milk cleanse, right?
Yeah.
So she said, like in her pictures, like in all of her measurements of microzyma, other than, raw mother's milk, which had the highest microzyma, our biochar was second. Just like when you look at it, it's like looking at like a crystal clear night sky. It's just absolutely beautiful. And there's so much life popping in it. And for me, that confirmed a lot of the things that I had been seeing out in the field throughout the years. And it makes sense of like why people use it, like in hospitals, they call biochar activated carbon. But I could see why that has such healing benefits. I could see like why in spas, like there was a second there, you and I were talking about it. I have this combination of mixing the diamagnetic biochar with other substances that are paramagnetic and such. And the effects that people have from it are just out of this world. It's like a geological battery. Like that's always giving energy. And so what we're seeing with our plants, with our yields and all that makes a lot of sense. What we're seeing in the biology of the animals that are actually eating it. Like our biggest buyers right now are chicken farms.
Really?
Yeah. And they're finding that their chickens are like anywhere from 10 to 15% bigger they're only eating about 3/4 of their old feed. That's how much of our biochar is becoming part of their feed.
So they're supplementing like 1/4 of what was previously.
Yeah. And then they'll put it out in their scratch also. So the big thing it started off with was killing the smell. So a lot of these big chicken farms, they have a terrible smell because of all, the concentration of waste. And so it's been known forever that activated carbon kills smell. Like in a lot of the cat litter that you buy, some of the more organic cat litter, it has activated carbon or biochar in it, but like such small percentages. And so they saw that also cows that were eating out in pasture land that had been, essentially top dressed with biochar, that their poo stunk a lot less. So it just kind of experimented with it. And then the animals love, especially anything that has a gullet, loves to eat it because of it's like, it almost has like a fiberglass consistency. So when they crush it, it really helps everything that goes on with their biology through their GI tract. And then when their waste comes out, it's like, 1/10 of the smell. And then what we're finding that over the last 2 years is that particular chicken poo, usually they call it mellowing, is when you have to wait to use, waste from an animal before you use it as a fertilizer. And essentially the chicken farms are telling us they can turn around all that waste in 1/3 the time. I don't think I'm actually saying that right. So what normally took 3 months now only takes 1 month.
Got it. Okay.
Okay.
You said that right? 1/3 of the time?
Yeah. So that is amazing. So they're actually able to pay for the biochar that they buy from us because they can sell the waste so fast. So it's creating these closed loops that for me is just miraculous. Like when I first got into biochar, it was like, I can turn this waste, this biomass waste, into something that actually feeds the things that I want to feed. It's like that whole trope, that they teach you in economics. If you can like change one man's trash into your treasure, you're going to be wealthy. And I really felt that way. And so now we're seeing that like all the different, I guess you would say, avenues that are using our biochar are finding secondary ways to actually resell the stuff on the backside to actually pay for the input cost.
So with this being able to like convert waste much quicker, is it because of how much microzyma, like just the abundance of microzyma inside the biochar, now that you have this understanding of there is so much microzyma? Because I look at it as like injecting these original particles, right, into that material. So it provides the raw materials necessary to allow those life forms to take on whatever role they need to take on based on the pH of the environment present. It's just like I think you get what I'm saying. It's like injecting a ton of them in one area in a hyper concentrated way to resolve waste much quicker.
That's totally like I'm right there with you and thinking that's what's going on. From the tech, like if you're to just do the textbook, chemistry thing, they would say it's because of the surface area. They would say that the carbon has so much porosity to it. And because specifically biochar is very highly diamagnetic, so it acts like it's negative. And I'm being very specific with my words when I say it acts like it's negative. We were just having a great conversation earlier about the difference between men and women and how women are the negative pole. So they internalize things, they pull things to the center. Biochar acts like that. It pulls whatever the positive charges are around it into it. So what you find in a lot of waste is reactive oxygen species. You find all these things that people would term as free radicals and all these essentially bugs. We'll just keep it at that are not, they're detritivores. They're that part of nature that breaks things down.
Got it. Okay.
So those things don't really do well in living things. They do well in waste or things that are dying, right? And so what the biochar does is it absorbs it. And because it absorbs it, and then it also has these microzyma, and it's also structuring water to such a high degree. Like I had a great discussion with Veda Austin about it. It's structuring water to a point where it's actually creating a field effect of water because we live in water. Like this is a fluid. And so that ordering principle, along with the absorption of all the free radicals, just greatly accelerates what the detritivore would have done in nature anyway, which is bringing it all the way back down to its carbon constituent. And I also think there's a signaling thing because I believe our environment's all about signaling.
Yeah.
And in signaling is like, okay, here I'm signaling, I'm giving the earth, here is this perfectly Negretto phase carbon. And this Negretto phase carbon has been released of all its volatiles, so therefore it's purified. That's what the alchemists would call the purification phase. It's completely structured. It's quasi-piezoelectric, which means whatever vibrations are going on around it actually causes the cellular structure of it to vibrate like a piezoelectric crystal, like one of these. And then when it does that, it imparts a charge. It increases the electrical potential. So all those things together, it's just like, I can't call it a fertilizer because it technically isn't like giving a such and such, but all
biochemically, it's not.
Biochemically, but yeah. I can say it's literally allowing all the invisible alchemists that do all the work, all the mycelial networks, it's allowing them to do the work.
Got it.
Yeah.
If you frequently tune into the Way Forward podcast, don't skip this one. This is personal. If you've ever felt a shift from something that you've heard on this podcast, if it's helped you to see things more clearly, if it's helped you to break down a limiting belief system, if it's helped you just to generally question, or if it's helped you to feel less alone, then I'm asking you from my heart to help us keep going. We're not backed by corporate sponsors, venture capital money, or big donors, and that has been a deliberate choice. And we've said no to a lot of ad deals that weren't aligned because we don't want our mission to be shaped by products, brands, and agendas that we don't actually believe in. There are a few trusted brands and products that do support us, and we're incredibly grateful for that. But the reality is, this is primarily sustained by our listeners and viewers. Right now, this podcast has roughly 140,000 video and audio downloads a month, and it's continuing to grow. And only a small fraction of that actually help contribute financially. That's not a guilt trip, it's just the reality. We haven't said this directly enough, so here it is. If you'd like this podcast to continue, please help support us by becoming a member of thewayforward.com. If even a small fraction of listeners and viewers chose to support, we'd be able to easily sustain this. A membership at thewayforward.com is $99 annually, which amounts to about $8 a month. Think of it like a couple organic kombuchas at your local health food store, or maybe a fancy latte every month. And also think of it like this. In addition to ensuring that we can continue, you're actively supporting yourself in the process. Thewayforward.com is a private membership platform that allows you to instantly connect with aligned people, practitioners, farms, schools, restaurants, and more in your local area. And if the platform isn't for you, we've added a donation option as well. You'll find both of those in the show notes. If you've received something from the show, please consider giving back by becoming a member so we can continue to reach people, not just as a podcast, but as a movement for something good, true, and beautiful. Thank you so much for tuning in, and thank you for walking this path with us. What else did you learn from Veda, since we're on the tip, and like you talked about how it's structuring the water? What other revelations did you have about biochar, or have you had over the years, not even just exclusive to that episode, with water? Like a simple act is like, I know a lot of people who will take biochar and put it in water when they have like a stomach issue or something like that, or just take it as a supplement on a daily basis, just anything related to that.
Well, staying in like the alchemical world and the nature of energetics as it goes from the positive male pole to the negative female pole, biochar is ultra female. It's ultra feminine. And so what I mean by that, it imparts the mother energy, like the fulfillment of that feminine energy, the negative pole of pulling something all the way to its center, then to create anew. That mother principle is what the biochar actually does. And so I've had a lot of I shouldn't say a lot of shaman friends. I have 2 shaman friends. One's been a best friend. And the one thing that we've been able to like kind of see in the spirit realm is that it actually, like, we've all heard the trope of like, Father Sky, Mother Earth, that whole thing. What the biochar does is it actually allows the mother to do her work. It allows her to protect the child. It allows her to nourish the child. And so when you take water, the problem with a lot of our water these days is that it has a lot of chemicals, it has everything. And those pollutants usually have a positive. They usually have, when you look at it from a biochemistry perspective, they have a positive charge.
I always relate it back to fourth phase water and understanding that like negative charge is potential energy. At least that's how I've come to understand it. And it like pushes out anything that's positively charged. That's how it creates a battery. But those positively charged things are what is ironically the negative thing.
Right.
Which is interesting. Like it's kind of like how entropy and then negative entropy.
Right.
Like that is insane. Entropy is the destructive force and then negative entropy is the creative force. Yeah. Like it's a flip on words, and I think it's intentional.
Our mutual friend Eileen McCusick.
Syntropy.
Yeah, she smacked me across the side. It's not negentropy, it's syntropy, which I like.
I agree, but you see what I'm saying? Though, like the total flip on the language. I wonder if that's intentional.
Well,
anyway.
Then I have to give all kudos to Schauberger, because Schauberger said he wasn't using terms like that. He said the best way to think of a positively charged thing is it's juvenile. And the only way you can think of being around juvenile, like you and I were juvenile boys at one time.
Yeah.
We caused some havoc. We didn't mean to. We weren't bad. It was just juvenile boys. They just bounce into things and break stuff and are kind of greedy and self-centered. And that's just what being a juvenile boy is. Well, when you see a positively charged, substance or whatever it is, especially within water and especially when water becomes overcome by that, it's just juvenile.
Got it.
So it's not that it's bad or like, whatever. It's just like that's going to be an oxidator. That's going to oxidate things. And when it gets aggressively oxidative, like things go really wrong.
You know what else? This other revelation I had with respect to fourth phase water, I'd love to hear if you've thought about this as well. Or just like batteries in general. So negative charge we can think of as potential energy. Would you agree with that? No, you wouldn't. Okay, then this analogy is going to be horrible. But why? Why not?
Because negative and positive are always talking about a flow. They're talking about a direction.
Okay, so this does relate to that then. So like when we stand on the earth, we receive negative charge. In order for fourth phase water, according to Pollack's work, in order for there to be a high potential energy, there's a large area of negative charge next to an area of positive charge. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
Okay.
There is charge separation.
Yeah, charge separation. It's interesting though, like thinking of negative charge as potential energy. And then like they've shown in his lab that if you shine infrared light on the area of negative charge, that area of negative charge will expand, which means its capacity to hold potential energy becomes greater, right? It's just so interesting to me as an allegory for life, because you could have exclusively negative charge with no positive charge, and there would be no energy at all. There would be no energy production because you need the charge separation.
That would be voltage.
Okay, voltage, right. I don't know the electrical terms. Fill in the gaps wherever I need to. But what I'm getting at is, like when I noticed that you need that area of positive charge because you need the charge separation in order for there to be voltage. It's like an analogy for life. Like if we had pure 100% bliss all the time, but nothing to rub up against, nothing to push back against, nothing to sort of contrast that, there would be no flow of life.
Right.
You see what I'm getting at?
I totally get it.
Yeah. Like when that hit me, I was like, holy shit, this is like
we were talking about this earlier today. In the New Age circles, when you come into the thinking of monism, we're all one.
Yeah.
That's exactly what you're talking about. That would be the static field of pure potential, and it's static. But it's not really relevant to a field where we have boundaries.
Yeah.
Where we have boundaries, and I think this realm, that's what this realm is. It's where the soul comes to gain strength by learning boundaries.
Yep.
When we're learning boundaries, the negative and positive are always in that syntropic interplay of pushing against each other. So the will can actually decide what its boundaries are.
Yeah.
I mean that we got really esoteric there, but
I love that.
But that's the totality of it. And the water is incredible for us because like water from an elemental perspective represents emotion. And we've all seen, like, you know, you put out something controversial on your Twitters or whatever, you're going to get ton more action in it, in activity, than if you put out something like really cute and loving and positive. So and it's because the charge potential is greater. There's more of a fight in that. There's more of a resistance to it. And the resistance, you have voltage and then you have resistance. Guess what? That gives you the amps. That's what ampage is. And that's what we read as power in this realm. So it's one of those things is like, I'm with you. The voltage increases. The mother has all the potential for, you know, holding whatever the child needs. Absolutely. And then you have the positive, which is the patterner, you know, the patterner that sends the messaging. And where the two meet, you usually have a little resistance, which gives you the amps that gives you creation.
I want to get back to biochar, but I want to go on this a little bit longer. How does this relate to polarity therapy? Because you do that as well.
Yeah, that's my favorite thing on the planet.
Okay, can we talk about that just a little bit as it relates to this? Yes.
So in short, polarity therapy recognizes our biofield anatomy, but
not like Eileen's version.
Well, hers is the etheric biofield anatomy. Okay. So like that's dealing with like the aura, like the greater, the invisible. Like when you see a body, that body it's within a sphere. Mm-hmm. That sphere is invisible, but that isotropic field that makes that sphere, that is the greater biofield anatomy. Polarity therapy focuses on how that field is actually programming the physiology of the body.
Got it.
And if you have a heterosexual woman and a heterosexual man, their charge, the way charge moves through their body is very, very consistent. In a male body, the net charge of their body, and hence their biofield anatomy, and one might argue which comes first, right? There's a positive, there's a push. The energy, positive means flowing out. So they're the patterner. They're taking whatever the will is and then pushing that out into the universe. And then the universal receptor is the negative, and the heterosexual woman, she's there to receive that like you said, increase the potential all the way to now we have enough potential for the creation of new life.
Got it.
Boom.
That also makes a lot of sense to me why women are much more intuitive.
They're much more intuitive because they're literally a different species. I say this all the time and I don't mean it as an insult because like the way energy moves is like, I do a lot of, couples consulting because when you do body work on people and then you do body work on their mate and then you get to see, oh, you're running this and this and this, you end up being like a couples consultant. And what I say a lot of times is men are going this direction. Women are going this direction. And it's so important to align because if you don't align and you just move, it looks like you're going in opposite directions.
Got it.
But you're not. You both want the same thing if you're in alignment. So then you can see, oh, we're both pointing at the same thing. We're just coming from literally 180 degrees different direction. So that's why solidarity, women having solidarity with their own and men having solidarity with their own can be so refreshing because you're not having to like repattern yourself to just find neutral.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And you'll see this, like I see a lot of couples when they're always around each other, they depolarize. They literally depolarize because they're always in each other's field. And because they're always coming and touching neutral, they neutralize each other. And it's like, oh, and I could see the wisdom in these old practices of like people not sleeping in the same room.
There's a lot more people in our space doing that now.
I have to.
You do it too?
Dude, distance makes the heart grow fonder.
Yeah.
The whole like literally everything that was fed to the boomers is wrong. Like everything from like you sleep with your partner every night, it's all about the blue pill. Like it's all wrong. The only reason why you would need any of that is because you don't have distance making the heart grow fonder.
Mm-hmm.
And distance, letting the distance, that distance allows polarity. Like the second I'm out of town, my wife and I are like texting each other sweet nothings, It's just like flirting is important.
Yeah.
Like that whole thing is, at least to me, it's important. And to my wife, it's important. But like, I see this with so many couples where you get caught in the rigmarole of life. And then because you're always neutralizing, you're neutral. Well, where's the fire? Where's this? Where's that? Where like in a lot of healthier ways of doing things, that's not the way at all. Men do the men thing, women do the women thing. They come together in these short but really qualitative moments. It's brilliant. Everybody's refreshed. And then nobody's bitching about the other sex not knowing what the other sex is doing.
Right. Well, it goes back to, and this is so cliche to say, but it's so true because it comes up all the time. We're not living as human beings are supposed to be living. We're not living in community as we're supposed to be living in community. Like the men are out doing men shit all day and the women are with each other doing women shit all day together. And then you come together as couples every so often throughout that. Mm-hmm. And that's not how we're living at all.
No. And then like all the social engineering is such, and the social engineering isn't by accident. Like the social engineering that was instituted was very much there to depolarize us. So as a polarity therapist, my big job is to repolarize people, and to like big thing that occurs in them, I'll see like scoliosis or kyphosis or, their hip girdle is out of whack. And all this is pointing to the energetics from whatever they're absorbing in their biofield anatomy, their environment, and then whatever, there's so many misbeliefs or misheld conceptions in a person's body, in their mind, and then also their story. A lot of people have these stories. We were talking earlier about how powerful entrainment is.
Oh my gosh.
Like literally entrainment, when I'm working through somebody's fascia that has an entrainment issue, given whatever, I'm literally dealing with a program. It feels like I'm touching your iPad. It feels digital.
Literally.
It feels digital.
Like in your body, it feels digital?
It feels digital on them.
Really?
I go from like touching something organic or feeling something organic, and then like it'll be like, oh, because a false premise that's organic it'll have more density in it.
Okay.
It'll have some striation.
What would that look like? Like, what would a false premise that's organic versus one that is clearly like a mechanistic pattern that is digital almost?
So big thing is I deal with a lot of new mothers.
Okay.
Okay. And they'll have the false premise because of Instagram or whatever they're looking at that they're no longer attractive to their mate.
Mm-hmm.
So their hips get all out of whack. Not only because their hips weren't like reset from the birthing process, but literally like they're sway back, all the things that maybe as a younger being, they were like, using to shaking their tail feather to induce, some positive directional energy, right? Their hips now are immobile or frozen. And when you get to, and I'm not saying this is every time, but a lot of times I'll get into, essentially the sciatic area and working the gluteus minimus and like working where the sacrum sets. And they'll just have this spontaneous, like either crazy laughter or like huge release in crying of feeling like they're no longer attractive.
Wow. And that is in that moment you're releasing it.
In that moment, yeah. I always tell the person, if you're feeling it, it's leaving.
Yeah.
Like the second you're feeling it.
That's helpful for me to hear right now.
Yeah. So like
with coming off of frustration from this milk cleanse, I'm like, God, I'm so angry.
Yeah. One of my mentors, like he tortured me. Like he Rolfed me for half a year and like completely reset my body. And I was just like, I had so much anger from my youth. Yeah. And like all that was coming up. And he was like, I think at the time he was a 4th degree black belt in judo. So he would literally put me in judo holds because I was trying to hit him. Like I was literally like swinging at him and he would laugh. He's like, Gardner, this is just leaving. It's just leaving. It is so true. Cause by the time I got through all that, it was done.
Yeah.
It was done. Like, the intensity at which it was stored within my physiology was the intensity in which it had to come out.
Yeah.
And it did, and I got to experience it, and I had enough catharsis where I don't have those anger tendencies that I did. Like it was experienced. It came through. And so that's like showing like what an organic false premise would be. And then like the entrainment stuff, like all the stuff I have to do like in the occipital range and stuff like that. Because a lot of the polarity therapy will end up being, it's very similar to craniosacral work.
Interesting.
So like if somebody's just been watching CNN all day, like a lot of my older clients, their feet and their head literally feel like I'm touching like a screen.
Why their feet and their head specifically?
Because they're not grounded.
Okay, that's what I was going to say. That's what I was going to guess.
They don't ground at all.
Yeah.
Like they literally like I think there's a directly proportional pie chart somewhere that shows like the more CNN you watch, the less your feet touch the ground. Like I bet you there's something like that. It's just nuts.
Yeah.
And like they literally, their feet have no warmth or circulation. They're like like you just touch them. There's like no pain tolerance. Their foot hasn't touched the mother. Their feet haven't touched the mom. So they don't feel nourished. They don't feel nurtured. And that's all the programming that's starting at the top because we reflect I always forget the name of that where like you have a word, the way it starts is the way it finishes. What's that called?
Is that an anagram? Is that something else?
No, it's a different word. I always forget. I think I asked you this last time we were on.
Did you? Wow. That's cool. I'm gonna look it up now.
But the head and the top of the head and the bottom of the feet a lot of times reflex to each other. And so, that's an example of when it's false.
What do those ones like actually look like in terms of, okay, so like watching CNN every day, but could those also be in the form of like indoctrination through public school? I'm just trying to get this sense of like the source for these ones versus the source for those that are organic.
Well, there's also, there's tons of like almost every, people group has their, false indoctrination.
Yeah.
So I know and a lot of times you'll find it it's consistently in that area of the body.
Yeah.
And a bunch of us practitioners, we've talked to each other and kind of trade notes,
Yeah.
So
is this commonplace throughout like polarity therapists that there's the difference between like that's a digital one and this is a...
I've brought it up. Like I actually brought it up to Eileen and asked her that question this last year because I really value her practical knowledge. And she really had to contemplate it deeply. Like she really had to go in and like really see, because there's so many things with AI now. There's so many people, because a false premise could be like you could be having a real true experience of a lie. And that's
of course that COVID in many ways.
Right.
Like that is literally what COVID was.
Right. And that's a big thing that as a practitioner and all of us body practitioners that have any level of sensitivity, somebody will 100% be having an authentic experience of a lie.
Mm-hmm.
And pretty much most things of what you end up having to process out of somebody is believed lies. So when it's organic, like they really think that they had their own direct experience with it. That's more the organic one relative to the inorganic one.
I see what you're saying now. Okay. So the organic ones are more about a direct experience of something versus the inorganic ones are programmed beliefs that are just there running through you.
Right.
That are still driving the way that you function in reality, but you're not actively experiencing feedback related to them.
Right.
Okay.
Like I dealt with a lot of Catholics when I lived in Central America, and they all had these crazy hand things going on. And I was like, it made no sense because a lot of these people were like, they were like more agrarian and they lived longer. It was a blue zone.
Right.
Whatever that means.
Yeah.
And they ate, healthier. They didn't eat necessarily a sad diet and stuff like that, but they all had these like hand things and these foot things. And because given their religion, mainly being Catholic, there was never like a full massage. It was only like doing neck and arms and shoulders and forearms and hands and stuff like that. And then I learned about the stigmata.
What's that?
In the Catholic tradition, they talk about, the people who have stigmata, they get the wounds of Christ.
Okay, got it.
Through their hands and the feet where the 9-inch nails went through. And I was like, they're all running that program.
That's crazy, man.
So they might not get the like true stigmata where they had like the blood coming out of their hand, but their hands are all demented and curled. Whereas the people that didn't have that faith but lived the same type of life didn't have that.
Interesting. So it's like an egregore that is dominating.
It's absolutely an egregore.
That makes a lot of sense. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, man. By the way, the word is a palindrome.
Palindrome. That's what it is. Our body is very much a palindrome. So in polarity therapy, we're always working X's in the body. Because biomechanically, if your right arm goes forward, your left foot goes back.
Yeah, it's like the fascial lines that go across the body,
exactly.
Like transverse across the body.
Yeah.
That's why I had left shoulder surgery, 2 screws in my left shoulder. I have right hip issues.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Do you walk in circles?
No. What do you mean by...
I'm just playing with you.
I was like, wait, what? Am I supposed to do that? I was like really reflecting on like, shit, do I do that? Damn, I'm that unconscious.
You haven't been doing the reverse whirling dervish, Alec?
Dude.
Do the reverse whirling dervish.
Speak about an egregore. Dude, one time this is probably not an egregore, but one time I had a dream that my wife was whispering in my ear saying whirling dervish over and over again. I didn't even know what a whirling dervish was. And I woke up, I was like, Kylie, I had a dream that you were whispering whirling dervish in my ear. And she's like, do you even know what that is? And I was like, no. And then she told me to look it up and I looked it up. I was like, what the hell does that mean? Can you analyze that dream for me?
I think you just want to wear dresses and spin. Spin with your daughter. You just want to wear a big dress and spin with your daughter.
That's what it is.
You're trying to induce that negative feminine current. I get it.
That's what it is. Yeah. Try to correct my polarity. Okay. I want to get back to biochar. Do you want to talk about anything else related to polarity therapy?
Well, polarity therapy is incredible. I have to say, all the years that I did of doing like deep tissue myofascial release, I still do about half my sessions are like that just because people need to be touched.
Yeah.
But the effectiveness of polarity therapy, of like just, finding where in the circuit there's a short Like, because all we're doing is treating the body like it's an electrical schematic. And so those are like, I mean, it's instantaneous. Like I dealt with it too, you know, being an athlete and being a kicker, I was always rotating on one leg.
Yep.
I was really out of balance through my hips and stuff like that. So I went through years of like people like digging into me and busting me up and stuff like that. And then in polarity therapy, it was like 2 minutes and all that work was done.
How much of that do you think is related to beliefs, thoughts, feelings, and not strictly like biomechanical? Because like for you, for example,
it was all, I was very mad.
That's what I'm getting at. Because, okay, you had the repetitive movement, right?
I had to hit something as hard as I could 150 times a day to process my parents' divorce, process the whole thing that I was dealing with my family. And then also process the social engineering, which I hated. Because like as a young man, like I was sort of, you know, I guess you could say a pain in the ass to authorities, because a lot of times I would challenge them with what they would say to me. And then I would get in trouble when I would just be using their own words. Like I remember in my AP history class, they started off, the teacher acted like he was such this like, you know, Renaissance man.
Sounds like a fucking AP history teacher.
Yeah. And he was just like, you know, history is a lie agreed upon. So in our first test, when all the questions came out, I just wrote lie as an answer. And he failed me. And I was like, you said it's a lie agreed upon. And I got detention for 3 days. And I got yelled at by my dad. So I was pissed as a young man. Like I had to hit something a lot. And I did.
So do you think that the act of hitting something is that your body was taking the emotions that you didn't know how to express, you were expressing it into that physical pattern?
Yeah.
So then, okay, so what I'm getting at is for kickers who are kicking just because they love kicking, not that you didn't, but like they didn't have the emotional muck going into it.
They all do.
They all do.
They all do. No, don't kid yourself. We used to have a joke, especially in the higher order camps. We'd always be like going through our perceived, you know, let's just call it lower chakra dysfunctions. And like in fighting, like in different fighting styles, you have your strikers and you have your grapplers.
Yep.
Right. And I was always a striker. In fact, in soccer, I was a striker.
Literally a striker.
Literally a striker. In tennis, I played from the baseline and I hit the ball as hard as I could. When I played football, I kicked the ball as far as I could. Like I was in it to hit things hard because I've always been a striker. To this day, I'm a striker. I come from a family of boxers. You know, I don't want to roll on the ground with some dude. I want to hit you at a distance and keep you at a distance. Like that's where I'm at, right? That's just the way my particular physiology has its healthiest way of catharsis.
But what I'm trying to get at, that's interesting about all kickers, but is that the people who go into those movements that are repetitive on one side, right? Without the emotional charge backing them, would they have the same physical issues down the line?
No. If you were ambidextrous or ambidextrous and you were able, but I wasn't skewed that way. Like I needed to go through, because when you looked at my left leg was always bigger than my right leg. Yeah. So I was right-footed kicker. So I was always rotating on my left side. So it made my left side super strong. And actually my right leg was weak. Well, when you looked at the energetics from a polarity perspective, my father was weak.
Wow.
My father was like, actually, you know, he was a lower energy valence because he was lying a lot and a narcissist. My mother was strong. So my whole left side of my body, even though I was always using my right side, you know, I always had that male polarity of just working through the right side. My left side was actually the strong, stable one. And so after being out of my parents' house and like growing into my own and going through my first Saturn return, all that became much, much more balanced in my body because I was no longer working through that.
Does it depend on your handedness in polarity therapy or?
Yeah, your hands have different polarities. All your fingers.
Well, I mean, like, do you have like a mother side versus father side is what I'm getting at.
Well, they won't say mother, father. I'm using that. Going back to our original analogy.
Positive, negative.
Yeah, positive, negative.
Okay.
Yeah. So left side's receiving up into the neck, and then it switches over into the right hemisphere of the brain. And right side is pushing, and then it switches over to the left side of the brain.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
And it doesn't depend on handedness though. Because like in Germany medicine, for example, like your whole anatomy switches based on which is your dominant hand.
Oh, no.
Okay. That's interesting.
No.
Interesting. So another question related to polarity therapy, then we can go on. I just love to get your thoughts on this. So it seems that like, just like with Rolfing, just like with like deep myofascial release related stuff, emotions come up related to releasing those adhesions. Do you think that in order to adequately process emotions that you need to have someone get their hands on you like that?
I mean, I've said this over the years in different media, and I've kind of taken some flack for it. I've only come across 2 perfect people. And by perfect, I mean like they didn't need any work.
Really?
Like when I worked on them, I'm like, oh, you're like a different thing. Like you're like, whoa, you are lit and it's all mood and like psychic stuff and like, woo. And then those 2 ended up being married. And then those 2 ended up having children that were, lit like they were. They were like angels incarnate. And I was just like, oh, you're a different thing, like altogether. Most people need body work. And I would say body work is probably the most underutilized of all of the modalities out there. Because especially body work when you're receiving from the opposite sex. It's so important because the polarity of just having a man touch a woman and a woman touch a man, the polarity of that energy moving and cycling is so natural that way. Obviously, any man can work on any man and any woman can work on any woman, obviously. But the energetics are such as so much less energy is needed.
Interesting.
Because of the polarity dynamic.
Even if you were a dude who is, let's say, primarily dealing with father stuff or a woman primarily dealing with mother-related stuff, it would still be beneficial to have someone that is of the opposite sex of you?
If they know what they're doing, absolutely.
Yeah, okay. Interesting.
Yeah, because I've seen like one of my best mentors ever was this little 95-pound German woman. And she was working on 320-pound football players and NBA players. And she would toss them around like they were, rag dolls. And it wasn't necessarily a strength thing. Like this is when you get into doshas and energetics. You've done a lot of Tai Chi and Qigong in your life. Like there's energy dynamics that are at play that really don't have a lot to do with like gross weight. And so like when you become sensitive to those types of things, like you can move a lot. It's just when you bring a positive and a positive together, like say you bring 2 men together and say I'm working on somebody, they're going to have a natural resistance to receive.
Got it.
And it just takes a longer time. It's like if you're to take 2 positive charges on a magnet and bring them together, they're going to bounce off of each other. Now, if you force it together, there's higher potential energy, but the person needs to know how to regulate that.
Got it. So it just becomes much easier with someone of the opposite sex then?
Yes.
Interesting.
Yeah, you don't have the resistance in the field.
I have a lot more percolating in my head related to this.
And this is if they're heterosexual.
Interesting.
Because it doesn't work the same way in homosexuals.
Okay. This may be getting too into the weeds, but I'm just interested. What would you imagine is happening in the field? Like, what would you expect to find in the field of someone who like identifies as trans?
Confusion.
Just confusion?
Lots of noise.
Yeah.
So electrical, like the way electrical perturbance is read is it's noise. Like that's the way the body, it almost becomes an acoustic thing. And when you're like, I think I've only knowingly been around a few trans people, maybe unknowingly. They're loud.
Interesting.
They just have a lot of noise in their system. But they're also auditorily loud. Like they're They never shut up.
Would you expect to find a lot of the digital programs inside them too? I mean, I feel like that's almost rhetorical. Yeah, I feel like it'd be just like they're running pure digital programs almost.
I think a lot of people are running a lot of like crazy programming. Like I'm really looking forward to like our festival, because after talking to most of the people that are going to be speaking to it, like we're all like cross-correlating our youths, and we're like, there's some like real patterns like that we've all shared. It's like, it really makes me wonder, you know, like the free Masonic experiment that, you know, the United States is. It really makes me wonder how many of us have undergone certain programming, and the whole rest of our life we're just trying to work it out.
Yeah. I think that's what a lot of this is, dude.
Yeah, well, you have like the
genuinely,
you have the general stuff.
Yeah,
but there's certain phenotypes, there's certain physiologies that we're really zeroed in on. There are certain coupling programs of parents that were much, much bigger than people talk about. A lot of the genetics thing. I think there was a lot of pairing of genetics, and then put an epigenetic driver with epigenetic drivers to see what would happen.
Got it.
To see what would occur.
Do you think like generationally, like
I think yes. I think
okay.
Absolutely. So not only would you have the psychic driving of the social engineering, but then on a much, much like more direct level, you would get all this programming as a kid and not remember it. A lot of people, a lot of people would process it as like, oh, UFOs, or, you know,
got it. I see where you're getting,
you know, alien abduction or whatever it is, or, oh, they just took me to do this special testing with all these, you know, blot tests. Mm-hmm. So many different things. We already know a lot of like the surgery that goes on in the United States isn't needed, and people will just, oh, they're just greedy surgeons, or the hospitals need to make up the back end. Yes, there is that. And I bet you a lot of those surgeries are sponsored.
Yeah, I'd believe that.
And genetic materials are taken. Things are inserted. Let's see what's going on here. Let's do little testing. Like your friend Chris Crutchfield that you turned me on to. Best podcast of 2025. I immediately like messaged you. I was like,
You hooked me up with him. Yeah. Yeah. It's funny though, because when he listened to the episode where you came on, he said the same thing. And I had originally linked all y'all up. It wasn't until you saw him on my show, you're like, oh, okay, now I see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Chris Squared, because I had no idea. He had contacted me years before about Super Adobe.
Oh,
he really wanted to build domes, but I get so many DMs.
I get it, dude.
Like, so I didn't make the connection, but when I heard him with you, I was just like, oh, he put so many things together for me. And I was just like, okay. And so it is like ever apparent in my consciousness that I've known at a very deep level, at a very, very deep level for a long time, that this place is so much more engineered than we.
Yeah.
Like it's engineered to like I hesitate to ever even use the term natural. That's how heavily engineered this place is.
The entire realm.
You go out and look at plants and dirt and all this stuff. I mean, I'm a terraformer. Like I literally form terra. Like I make soil.
Yeah.
Like there's like the botanists I know are like, oh yeah, that's a hybrid. 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 Like
I see you're getting it now.
Everything has been modified.
So it's not that it's not like a natural substance. Because I wasn't sure if you were going on about this being like some sort of almost digital simulation type thing.
Well, we were talking about earlier, like, I think this is a holographic realm. Actually, I know it's holographic.
Okay.
But the
what do you mean by that, though? Because like that can mean a lot of things to a lot of people.
Well, holographic, it's a multi-pole hologram.
Okay.
And God is the projector.
Okay. Yeah, I believe that.
And so
you don't believe that this is like a Gnostic.
No.
Yeah. Okay. I don't need
No, this is not a digital simulation.
No, I don't believe that either.
This is somewhat of a simulacrum relative. Our physical life is a simulacrum of our spiritual life.
Yes.
Like our spirit, let's just say the eternal aspect of us, from my perspective, is in the eternal realm, in the non-temporal realm. This is the temporal realm. This is the limitation realm.
Yep.
So the digital, like whenever like people, there's like a lot of popular, people out there in the media that really push the digital thing. And then when you like get into their thing, it's like, they're all regurgitating Battlestar Galactica.
Yeah.
They're all like, oh, there's some mothership flying through space. And that's not where I'm coming from. I think that we're in God's hologram. We didn't start ourselves.
Yeah.
So like a lot of times when I'm dealing with people that are more of an Eastern ilk, and they really in the monism thing, I'm like, did you start you? And that takes a real like broken ego to say, yes, I started me. The truth of the matter is none of us started ourselves.
Do you think at some level, though, some of us, quote unquote, chose this?
I think we choose certain aspects of it.
But
I've always been shaped ever since reading Anti-Fragile and Black Swan from Nassim Taleb. I know what he says in that book to be true. I know surprises are the driver.
Okay.
Like, everything's different after 9/11.
Yeah.
Everything was different after COVID.
Mm-hmm.
You and I didn't choose that.
No.
And some jerk off will say, oh, on a subconscious level, you gave your tacit agreement to it. So it happened. And I'm just like, no, I consciously did not choose it. When you look into actual, the law around contracts, if I'm in in a totally disordered state and am not conscious of the agreement that's being made, it's null and void. So no, tacit agreement in this aspect of, did I create 9/11 or did I create COVID? No, I did not do that. There are bigger fish out there than you. Admit it.
Yeah.
There are much bigger fish. How you play within that field is up to you, how you react and all the rest of it. And that's what I love about the whole notion of we didn't start us. I've come across so many people that I had a soul agreement with so-and-so before I came here. And when you listen to them wax rhapsodic about, I'm like, oh, so you know every variable. You literally know every single variable for your soul's optimization for eternity. You know that. That's what you're telling me with all this soul contract stuff and forever and ever and ever. Where I'm like, my experience is such that all the things that I've ever strategized for and I'm the man, look how good I am. When I fulfill that, cool.
Right.
But when God surprises me with something and it's things I had no idea about. I was like, what? What's going on here? My hair is on fire. I don't even know what's happening. And then on the other side of it, I'm so much more better because I didn't know any of the variables. I had no way of telling. I'm like, that's the truth. These hippie dippies that are living, we called them Trustafarians in Costa Rica. My soul contract with, Forrest over here. No, shut up. We don't know. We have to admit that we don't know.
Amen. Yeah.
We just don't. And so in going in those waters, that surprises really change our life. They really shape our life. Then you're in the mystery.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you're in the mystery, now you're open. Now you're humble like a child. I look at my little girl and she is so curious because it's a mystery. It's all mystery. And Jesus is said, if you're going to enter heaven, you have to be like a child. You have to have that curious, inquisitive, awe thing going on, right?
Yeah.
And these know-it-alls are no, I chose this and this and this. And then you get back to them 10 years later and their whole life is in a shambles. It's just yeah, we all know everything at age 26. Trust me.
so true. If you listen to this show, you are probably well aware that there's something seriously off with our modern food systems. And even a lot of food labeled organic isn't what it seems. Some of it's shipped in from China where regulations are murky at best, and other times companies slap the USDA organic label on while cutting corners and doing the absolute bare minimum in order to achieve that label. That's why Dr. Cowan's Garden exists. Founded by Dr. Tom Cowan, they believe health starts with food. Real food. The way that it's supposed to be grown. They call their sourcing beyond organic, which means they're working with small family-run farms who are going above and beyond the USDA organic label when it comes to growing their food. These farms care deeply about soil health and nutrient density, and some are even biodynamic certified, the highest farming standard in the world. At Dr. Cowan's Garden, they use proper processing techniques. Techniques that humans have used for thousands of years because they actually work. Nuts and grains are soaked or sprouted just as traditional cultures did. Olive oils and apple cider vinegars are never heated, preserving fragile nutrients. Olive oil is protected from light because oxidation matters. The list goes on and on. The products at Dr. Cowan's Garden are made to be deeply nourishing and also incredibly delicious. Foods that you actually enjoy eating and foods that make healthy decisions actually feel good. Dr. Cowan's Garden is not about fads, it's not about fear, and it's definitely not about following government health recommendations. It's about reclaiming a simple trust in your food. If you value transparency, tradition, and food that respects both your body and nature, head to drcowansgarden.com or just head to the show notes and use code THEWAYFORWARD for 15% off your first order. Welcome back to Real Nourishment. What I want to say to that though, real quick, is like, on the experience of, I'll just give an example. Dr. Edith, her kids, according to her, and I have no reason to believe that she's making this up, vividly remember being on some sort of, this is how they described it, and they were just using the best words they could, some sort of thing up in the astral or wherever before they incarnated and like choosing which family they went to. And they're like, oh, we chose that one. Do you think that that happens at that level?
We used to have a saying in the ayahuasca circles that I was in for about 10 years. Like, we're like, oh, that's an ayahuasca baby.
Interesting.
And the reason why we'd say that is like people that would have no real reason to ever get together. There would be an ayahuasca ceremony. And then they would get together and they'd have a baby.
Yeah.
And it was very interesting to me because 8 years prior to my daughter's birth, I met my daughter in an ayahuasca circle.
This is what I'm talking about, dude.
Now, this gets into non-linear time.
Okay.
I don't think that there's... So we are always interpreting things through the way our cosmology is. Yep. So I don't know Dr. Edith's cosmology. That's why my podcast focuses on cosmology. Because if I don't know your cosmology, you and I could be saying the same thing, but we're running it through a different filter.
Totally.
So it means a totally different thing.
Right.
So my daughter came to me, and it was a challenge because at the time, my wife at the time was very dark and Italian. And I see this blonde hair, blue-eyed little girl rolling up on me after the second cup. Everybody's like nuked in the Maloka. And she comes up to me. And before she even said anything, I was like, I knew it was my daughter. And I was like, I love you. And she's like, I love you too, Daddy. And I knew she was my daughter. I just like, and then I felt so much guilt because I was like, I'm not ready. Like I literally knew I wasn't ready to be a dad. And she goes, I know, silly. I just came by to say hi. And then she just danced around the altar and went out the Maloka. And she's now a year older than that. But when she turned 4, that was my daughter.
That's crazy.
And when I first met my wife, and how we met was like, how that happened was nuts. But I told her that story. And I was just like, I want a family. I've actually met my daughter to be, like I told her. And she had been listening to my podcast. I said, if you want to know who I am, just listen to my podcast. Like, that's who I am. And like, she like listened and she wrote this crazy long dissertation on one of them, which I loved, like breaking me down, which I loved also. But the whole thing is that soul in eternity isn't experiencing time.
Right.
And so I think So I know people that I trust, and this has happened for me. I know one of my guardian angels is my great grandmother. She died before I was ever alive. I don't think where she is, per se, is in linear time. Whatever that resonant pattern is, whatever that thing, whatever that being's love and joy is in protecting her family, it shows up when necessary. And I think a lot of times when a person has a cosmology that believes, eternity has linearity in time and all that, then they could say, because just, how it is as an interviewer, you're a master interviewer, you can lead a conversation with the way you ask questions. So depending on the person who's asking the questions to these children that are like saying, oh, yeah, that's right, we were in the astral plane in this. I'm not doubting their experience of being in the astral plane, but I bet you that there was a nonlinear aspect to it. Because I have a good friend of mine that I trust through and through. He's met himself in the past and the future.
Met himself, literally.
Literally.
Yeah.
At first, he thought they were different. And this isn't like a everywhere all at once type of thing.
Yeah.
Where I am everyone. It's not monism. He literally met himself from a few hundred years ago in a few hundred years in the future. And he was directed to an interaction with another person and a being, a crystal, in this time for that. It's very much like the movie The Arrival.
I love that movie so much.
It's top 5.
Dude, I told Veda before she had ever seen it, I was like, you're like the red-haired chick from Arrival. Yeah. And she's like, what is this movie? And she watched and she's like, oh my gosh, yes, that's literally like what I'm doing.
Yeah, that movie to me is the big wink from God. Because it's just like, I've had lots of retrocausal healings in my life and seen retrocausal stuff. I intuitively know that time, the temporal realm, is the fake realm and the eternal realm is the real realm. And we're just here to learn what we need to learn through God's surprises.
Yeah. And
hopefully we learn them.
Yeah.
But our eternal self doesn't experience time like we do here.
Right. Right. I want to share something. I want to get your thoughts on this. So we found out, you might have heard me say this before, we found out we were pregnant with our third because my son came up to us and just said, Mom, you're pregnant. And then we had so many signs through the duration of the pregnancy, like we're still trying to piece together what this means. We would find feathers everywhere. And we kind of looked at that as like a gift that was being presented to us, like a welcoming gift from our son or from God. And we were going to go with the name Oliver James or Oliver Bear because I really like the way Australian people sound when they say Oliver or Ollie. And Kylie did not like that name. And then one day we're at lunch in her third trimester and she's like, just out of nowhere, the name starts with an S. It starts with an S. And I was like, I can't think of any S names that I like that much for boys. I don't know. And I scrolling through different names and I was like, Shy. She's like, she starts crying immediately. She's like, that's it. It's Shy. Come to find out later, Shy means gift from God in Hebrew. Then he's born in a bathtub in caul. So we had to unwrap him like a gift.
Oh, like a gift? Yeah.
Dude, so I always took that to mean that like, and Kylie and I have said this before, it's like we made deliberate choices to get pregnant with our first and then our second. Like with our first at the time, we thought I was going to be deploying to Korea. And that was when like there's a lot of tension between the US and Korea. So we were like making a total trauma decision. Like, oh, you should get pregnant just in case, something happens. I'm a field artillery officer. Yes, dude, dead serious. And then it like happened. We were like, oh, like we just got married 5 months ago. We've been together for 7 years, but we're still really young at the time too, 24 when we got pregnant. But then with our second, we were trying for quite a while, then like got pregnant. With this third one, all that to say, we deliberately chose the first two. That's what it felt like. With the third, if we felt like that soul, he chose us. Like he chose us. It's not like that we didn't choose our kids or our kids didn't choose us at some level. All that to say, it seems like there was a choosing on the soul level from that soul.
Absolutely. I totally think that's I think that's totally happening. That's what the ayahuasca babies were.
Yeah.
You get two people that are disparate. Like there's so many instances, like you and your woman have been together for a long time. But like there's so many times where people will try to get pregnant. Like this happened with my sister. Her first marriage, wanted kids. Tried for 7 years with the guy. Doesn't happen. First time she's with the guy that she ends up marrying, her second husband, boom, child. The energetics, it's like it's like the whole tuning fork analogy. It's like, okay, you guys are now resonating at this relative frequency. There's a soul that is relative. That's the true relativity. Boom. It's the time and the place. Because I see it so much in astrology. In the celestic profiles I do, especially when you start looking at, familial charts and things like that, it is like, oh my goodness, this had to happen.
There's almost like a patterning in it.
Oh, it's divine. And it's so beyond us.
Yeah. Gosh.
It's so beyond us. Because when we're honest about our revelations, they're always in retrospect.
Mm-hmm. Always. Always, if we're honest. Yeah. Do you believe we have free will?
It appears to be free will.
It appears to be free will. Yeah.
It appears to be free will.
This is the way that I've defined it. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. That free will is literally any action that is not directly in alignment with God's will. If it's directly in line with God's will, it's not your own choosing, it's God.
Right. That's the irony.
Yeah.
I would say it a little bit differently than that. The paradox is when you're totally aligned in this is just my rewording of what you just said. In completely aligning with God's will, it's the first time you're free.
That is the paradox. I agree with that 100%.
It's literally the first time you're free.
Yeah.
When you're the will and you're the provider.
Yeah.
It's me. That's a long road.
Yeah, man.
And there's nothing free about it. There's nothing free about it.
That's what it feels like. It feels burdensome.
Yeah.
It feels incredibly burdensome. Like, because there's moments, at least in my experience, I mean, I'm only 33 and I'm on a journey through linear time where I dip into both. And it's like, when I feel like I'm in control, it just feels so burdensome. And ironically, the world would call that free. And it's like, no, I don't feel free when I'm that way at all.
No, it's just like, for me specifically, the way I'm wired, when I succeed and I fulfill something like this last year, I had some incredible fulfillments and it felt really good, but it was like an end. It was like the end of a cycle. It was like finishing something you started. Carries none of the juice. None of the juice of like, God surprising me and okay, I got to learn this now. Like I got to go this way. So and I never saw that coming. I never knew they would choose that. And all of a sudden, like if you would have told me 10 years ago, I'd be living in the middle of Missouri, I would have laughed at you.
Yeah.
If you would have told me 25 years ago, I would have lived in Costa Rica or India, I would have been like, what? Like, at least for me, the way God has patterned me is very much like, go with the flow. If you try and like, write the 5, 10, and 15 and 20-year plan and be the manifester of all manifestors, it doesn't work out well.
Same with me. Like 100%, dude. Like I didn't intend to fucking do this, dude. Genuinely, like doing this podcast, it was just something that felt right to do in the moment, given the contextual situation of COVID. Like I was like, oh, I want to have conversations with people because it feels like the right thing to do right now, given the circumstances that I didn't, like you said, I didn't create the COVID experience. It happened and I responded to it in a certain way. Like if you had told me, I like shared this pretty funny situation. If you had told me 6 years ago that John Stockton would be interviewing me on the topic of virology for his Health Freedom podcast, I'd have been like, what what alternative, what are you talking about? You literally couldn't get the most random AI script writer to make something that random. Right. And that's literally what's happening. John Stockton interviewing me for his Health Freedom podcast. But that's
where AI fails. And I know you're just using that as a thing, but I literally tell people AI is such garbage because it doesn't have the living verve of God.
Right.
God surprises you.
Exactly.
AI doesn't. It just collates information. and then it like kind of repackages it in a consumptive way. But dude, we can't predict. And like, I get some doomers in my chats and stuff like that. And I'm like, dude, if all this was up to like the head assholes in charge, we'd all be gone already. But it's not up to them.
Right.
It's just not.
That's where you like look like experiences like COVID, for example. Like it seems to be that there was an orchestration by malevolent people, right? But at the same time, my life has got infinitely better. My relationships have gotten better. My life path has gotten better. My perception of the world has gotten better as a result of that experience. So it's like God was still overseeing and directly involved with all of it, despite malevolent people having an agenda that leads to it. You see what I'm saying there?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And who's to say if like their first concoction of whatever was supposed to actually cause this, and then we adapted and got, like I know a lot of my friends in Costa Rica, they got, very, very vaccine injured. And then almost none of the people I knew in the States in my family that got the boosters and all that type of stuff. Well, they did get vaccine injured, but not to the degree of other people I knew. And like, like there's so many different ways of seeing like, okay, yeah, there was different batches and different things out there and everything like that. But I wouldn't put it past our epigenetics and God's plan just to be like, no, it's not time for the mass culling yet.
Yeah.
It's not time for that yet. Like, no, you can try as you might.
Right.
Like my favorite philosopher used to say, try as you might against the will of God, it's not going to happen. It just isn't. It's just like, no. And the timing of it was pretty cool to me because it was revelatory. Like all the people that were in denial of all the big business in illness, you can't deny it.
Right.
But like even my family that was in allopathic medicine as doctors and as nurses and stuff like that, they all look at like, quote unquote big health, and they see it for the utter nonsense that it's become.
Now.
Yeah. So they're not going to change their colors, they're going to still, be their blood or their crip, but at least now like internally, that's no longer an idol that it once was.
Yeah.
And I think that's the big time that we're in right now. Like all the idols are going away.
I think the next one right now is the like military superiority, military necessity idol.
Yeah.
I could be incorrect on that, but that's what I see happening right now.
Yeah, unless I could see them like changing the game with the weaponry.
Okay.
I think like the time of like, because people still, when they think of military, they think of munitions.
Totally. I see what you're getting at.
And I contend to this day, and I'm still like, I'm vast minority in this, but like in 2001, when those towers came down, I knew internally, I was like, that is the largest show of force ever. I know nuclear weapons are a hoax. But when those buildings got dematerialized, I was like...
What's that lady who wrote the book?
Judy Wood.
Yeah, Judy Wood. That's what you're getting at.
Dr. Judy Wood.
Well, it's interesting because supposedly with extraction of Maduro in Venezuela, I don't know if he's...
I wanted to hear what you heard on your side of things.
That there was some sort of like sonic weaponry. That's what they described it as.
Yeah.
That was used in that process where like all of his security detail, Maduro's security detail, and any military that they had guarding him and trying to defend against him were like keeled over and bleeding from the noses all at the same time and felt like their heads were internally on fire and that their ears were ringing like crazy. And then he was just extracted, boom, and then taken away.
That's what Judy Wood was pointing out in her book a lot. Was she said pretty much when they looked through the call logs of the people that were calling the emergency services from the Twin Towers, they were all saying that they were burning. And then when they would say, "Are you on fire?" They were like, "No, no, I'm just burning. I'm burning." Like,
could that be because of the heat though?
It's the microwave.
Okay. Well, I was going to say, could it be because of the closeness to the actual burning.
Well, they ask question after question. They would ask if there's fire, like they would, no
fire near them, but they felt like,
and then what they saw, and this might be a little too graphic for the way forward,
no, but, okay.
But literally, so there's like, I know, like we have a mutual friend that's done tons of skydiving, you know, and she's been around accidents where the chute doesn't go.
Yep.
And when people from 15,000 feet hit the ground, they don't splat. They bounce. Well, people during that day were splatting. And when you see, like, so it's terrible to see, but like, you know, I don't believe planes hit it or anything like that. But there were people jumping out of those buildings. And when you see the video of them, you see a lot of them like stripping their clothes off. So Judy Wood's theory was that, you know, whatever caused those initial explosions, you know, tripped the fire extinguishers, the water was hitting everybody, and then the microwave came. And in her model, she shows that there was 3 different frequencies ranges that were used. There was the ELF band, which was the one that flipped all the cars, like every other car. Because an ELF band is an extremely low frequency and it's a long wave.
It's like a rumbling.
Right.
Yeah.
That was the last one to go on. But there was the microwave band that they were charging the whole potential of the building with. And that's why people were getting all agitated. And I forget what the third band was. I think she was talking about from a scalar interferometry perspective. But those 3 bands together created constructive interference. And in a constructive interference pattern, that will cause molecular dissociation.
So that's why people, again, to get graphic, like weren't bouncing when they hit the ground.
They were splatting.
Got it.
Yeah. So even the rumble, it was kind of crazy. And the most telling thing that she was showing was, you know, porcelain a lot of times will read, you know, if you bring a Geiger counter up to it, you can read a radiation signature from it.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's so fine. It actually has little bits of uranium and plutonium in it. Like I'm an earthen builder, so I like know all my different clays. Well, porcelain's the finest clay you can get. It's the finest white clay. So when you fire it, you're getting like radioactive material, but it's good for you. It's like your good friend, Matt. Matt and I nerd out all the time about uranium.
Risky?
Yeah. Uranium glass.
I was listening to you with him earlier today, actually.
Yeah, he and I are both drinking out of our uranium glass all the time and stuff like that. Well, you know, there's something to eating from fine china, because that fine china is actually irradiating your food. It's actually giving your food some energy. Well, at 9/11, I think there was supposed to be, with all the different bathrooms in both the Twin Towers, there should have been about 3,000 porcelain gods in the rubble. There were none.
Interesting.
And so that high frequency range, when that low ELF band came in, those were the first things probably just poof. Obliterated because they already had the higher potential.
Wow.
And then when you see the mast itself, that one iconic picture of the mast, and then you just see the mast after the fire, and then the whole mast just dematerializes. And then the weight, like the people that were weighing this stuff in the harbor to, you know, ship to China, I think they were shipping it to the place where COVID supposedly started. Wuhan.
No way.
Yeah. The Killers, I think it was the Killers shipyard. I think that's what it was called, or either that, or that's where the scrapyard was. I think it was called Killers Scrapyard, something like that. Yeah, they would weigh it once on the truck, and then it would weigh differently as they move it, because it kept dematerializing.
Interesting.
So that to me is the show of force that I think is now going to become more commonplace. I really can't discern what's AI or what's not. Like, I don't pay enough attention to any of that stuff to really care.
It's an interesting thing for me because I still have friends that are hip to some things that are in the military that are like actively still in. And so, you know, as I was sharing with you before this, at the time of this recording, and I feel okay saying it on this, and hopefully by the time this comes out, there will be more confirmation of this. But I got a text from a buddy of mine who has direct knowledge regarding how many people have been killed as a result of Operation Epic Fury. And, he's still in the military. And as of this recording, they've said 7 people have died. That's what the government is saying in terms of the number of troops that have been killed. And my friend is saying, no, it's upwards of, low hundreds at this point, which is interesting. So the reason I bring that up is because it's like people are still clearly dying as a result of typical munitions for sure. But it's like you think the play is to move away from that, and these things they've been slowly doing, like there's some
it's the rollout, because I've been looking at all before they did the incursion. You had Obama on some BS podcast talking about Trump shouldn't talk about the aliens or whatever. And then Trump was like, I'll talk about the aliens if I want to. And then Obama, like they're doing the dialectic to kind of like, really draw the boomers in, man.
Got you.
And so the whole disclosure thing, the whole thing with Spielberg this June coming out with, his disclosure movie.
I know, dude.
And you
Very
have
interesting timing.
They're priming the pump, right?
Yep.
And so they let the information get out about Maduro's thing, because I've heard that from multiple people. And so what I'm thinking they're doing, and now the little bit of chatter that I do pay attention to, they're saying, oh, we're running out of bombs. We're running out of these munitions.
They are saying that.
We're running out of this. We're running out of that. We need a false savior, man. And the false savior is going to come in with lasers.
Well, they have already admitted, like in public statements, the Department of War has talked about, we do have direct energy weapons.
So the direct energy weapons, we've seen them in Paradise, California. We saw them in Lahaina. They work really well, guys. We saw them in LA.
Yep.
Like these things work very, very, very well.
Yep.
And weather modifications now totally out in the open.
Yep.
Whether people want to believe it or not, the weather modification's a thing. And so I think they're priming the pump. They're going to see how much play they still have in this end times thing with the Judeo-Christian population. But I think the real pump they're trying to prime is the boomer pump.
Interesting.
Because the boomer pump is the largest economy in the world. It's $14 trillion.
When you say the boomer pump, you're talking about the boomer generation and like...
The boomers have $14 trillion of assets that they don't have in play in the economy.
Got it.
And so
Got it. Okay, I see what you're getting at now.
So to extract that,
yep.
What have the boomers gotten the biggest thing? We went to the moon, God damn it.
That's
with
so
our
true,
grit.
Dude.
We came from the silent
That is what they get triggered the most by questioning that. That is so true. By far.
We went to the goddamn moon, and Buzz deserves his buzz. And you know what? Spielberg's been telling me since 1978, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, he's been speaking the truth. It's perfect bookends. You have Close Encounters of the Third Kind, forget when that came out. And then you have this disclosure movie.
Yeah.
Now they're admitting to the dues. Now they're admitting to the lasers. Sounds like a perfect time to have some, intergalactic intervention coming down where we need a one world government to blast them with our newfound weaponry.
Yeah.
It sounds like perfect. You don't think the boomers would just be throwing their assets at that? Because they have to always create a new market to extract assets.
Yeah. But then how do you psyop the Christians who are very fearful of a one world government at the same time?
It's a good question. I don't really know.
Some sort of like false
I think
savior.
they could go through a dejection phase because to finish a black magic ritual, you always burn the effigy.
Yeah.
So that could be the burning of their effigy.
Yeah.
Because I'm not in the dialectic of believing that we're, pre-millennial reign or anything like that.
Yep.
Like I think all that stuff already happened.
Totally.
Rome.
That's what I'm getting at. Because like what I see happen in a lot of my comments, for example, when I try to highlight like, no, we can, without saying it directly, like we can actualize Christ's kingdom on earth through us right now because he's already here. Say it in a variety of different ways. When looking at the state of the world and on social media primarily, things seeming to get crazier because when you put your phone down, it's really not that fucking crazy in most places. But all that aside, when people are talking about like the frenetic energy that is happening in the world, I see a lot of Christians respond to that with, doesn't matter anyway, Christ is coming back soon. Like sort of like this passive, we can't do anything about it, we're waiting for Christ to return. So there has to be some psyop play there in my mind as well, you know?
Well, it makes sense. Like, so say you burn the effigy, whatever, and then, you know, your younger generation, like say you've amassed, you know, how much ever assets you've amassed, but now you don't agree with your kids. Let's just go ahead and give that money to such and such organization.
Yeah.
Because I think the transfer of wealth is like from boomer to Gen X is like the lowest ever given the amount of wealth. Like it's horrendous.
It is horrendous. Dude, what is up with boomers? I'm sorry. I know there's boomers that listen to this podcast and I love those of you who do. What is up with your friends in your generation?
I actually have so much compassion. It's in their astrology.
Is it really?
Yeah, because in the boomer,
I love you boomers, by the way, to listen to this show.
And I love them too. My parents are boomers.
Yeah.
I should say my one parent that's still around. So their Pluto transit was through Leo. Okay. And Leo is all about eternal youth. The dark side of Leo is extremely loving and loyal if you show it love. If you disagree with it, you'll rue the day. You'll get kicked out of the pride.
That's the experience of a lot of people with boomer parents. And it's also the experience that seems to be fairly commonplace, where it's like an underlying feeling of, I feel like they never actually wanted to be parents.
They don't. It's eternal youth.
Yeah.
They drive the Viagra market.
Yep.
They drive all of these things. Like they literally, I don't want to disclose too much information. I have family that are boomers. They're literally blind and cannot drive, and they'll buy a Porsche.
Yeah.
Or they'll go on cruises where they can't taste the food anyway. Not a single effing consideration for their progeny.
Right, man.
I'm young forever. I'm going to get this knee surgery even though I don't use my knees anymore. Like, spend it.
Yeah.
We started this conversation talking about adolescent water. They're the eternal adolescent.
Interesting. Shout out to the boomers that listen to this show that have broken out of that. I almost feel bad because like I've made comments on boomers before on episodes, and then like I've had some of them message me like, I'm a boomer, I listen to your show. What's the deal, dude? I'm like, it's not exclusive.
Well, here's the beautiful thing about the boomer. So this is where the Pluto transit. So Pluto takes a long time. Leo is a big constellation. So it took a while to move through. The beautiful thing that the boomer teaches other people is it teaches other people that it's okay to be seen. There's certain, signs that they won't speak up. They won't come forward. Whereas the Leo energy in one's life is the sun. Look at me. They're the performer. Like I'm supposed to be seen. Aren't I beautiful? Like that's the Leo's cry. Like, don't you see how wonderfully beautiful I am? Like that's what they do. And that's a good teacher for the other, 12 constellations, because the other 12 constellations don't necessarily live that. So they're serving a function.
Okay.
It's just one of those things where don't expect. The Leo is only really giving if it feels like if there's a love reciprocation. It's not like a Capricorn that like its dying will and testament is to make sure you're taken care of and winter will not kill you.
Right.
It's nothing like that. It's the other side. It's the Leo of like, it's always summer, baby. Let's hit that cruise. Let's go to Vail again. Let's do it.
All right. We got way off track from the biochar conversation, dude. Like, that's why I love talking with you, though. I had maybe 3 notes of talking points, and I just knew that it was going to go into so many different epic. Yeah, it's going to be fun. Not even kind of worried. But I do want to get back to the biochar thing. This may sound like a very basic question, but I think it's important because I think a lot of people actually don't know. What is biochar and why did you get into it? And why is it so important? We already touched on it a little bit for not only our health, but for just the whole environment.
Biochar is carbon, but it's carbon that's been cooked in an oxygen-free environment. So that causes a different oxidation state in it. So anything that grows, like any plant, is mainly comprised of carbon. Like we're mainly comprised of carbon, okay? The matrix that makes up all biological things, the literal matrix, is a carbon matrix. From the 70s Star Trek movie, carbon-based life forms.
Yeah.
Like pretty much things that grow on planet Earth are carbon, except
it's interesting. Carbon and water is what we're like largely comprised
exactly.
of.
I mean, like 99%,
yeah.
right? And so this carbon, when we cook it in these kilns, we have a very awesome kiln system that puts all the biomass under vacuum, meaning there's no atmosphere on it when we heat it. Everything off gases. So it's literally like an alchemist's retort. In fact, I have shirts that let's get retorted because it's alchemy nerddom. What the alchemist figured out a long time ago is like if you cook biomass, if you cook whatever it is that you're trying to purify, from their perspective, they called it purification. I think the main, I guess you would say, directive in alchemy is to purify nature by fire. Mm-hmm. I forget what that is in Latin. And so, or by fire, nature is purified wholly. I think that's the way it's said. But what they would do is, say this was something that they wanted to purify, they would put it in like this little piece of heavy ceramic cup that had a weighted lid. And then they would throw that in a very, very hot oven, something that's above, 2000 degrees. And this, whatever this was, as it would heat up inside the little vessel, they called that vessel an anthenor, it would off gas. And so like a little percolator, the gas would come out of it and the little lid would pop up, but it would fall fast enough where no oxygen would get in there. And then after that lid stopped popping, they knew, okay, whatever was in there was totally perfectly purified. They call that the negretto phase. So then they would pull that piece out of whatever the material was, and they would see, oh, okay, this is the purified whatever. And it'd be totally black. And this is where the term carbon copy comes from, because it looked exactly like it did before, except now it's all black and now it's all carbon. So on my Instagram page, I have many pictures, like way back in the day, where I'd take a leaf before I would put it in my own version of my own anthenor, my retort, and I would cook it and it'd come out, and it would just be about 70% of the size or 80% of the size. But now it was like pure carbon. You just touch it and it just shh. And so what occurs is what the alchemist figured out without saying it in our technical terms was, when you have that purified carbon, it's the purified mother. Now it can rightly receive the sulfur, the spirit, whatever you're adding back to it, and now create the philosopher's stone or create the purified thing, the quintessence. They were always aiming to have the highest of the high with whatever they were making. And in this whole process, the alchemist himself or herself, it was mainly hymns, they would be purifying their own system. And so I got into biochar mainly because I was told in the tropics about this stuff called terra preta, which is Amazonian biochar. And my permaculture teacher, one of them, I told him about what was happening to my cacao farm. I had all these leafcutter ants just mowing down my cacao. And he's like, yeah, your plants are unhealthy. The leaf cutters, they come in to eat it.
Which is also interesting because they only appear on unhealthy plants.
Exactly.
So interesting.
And they actually do a brilliant job. They're amazing because they're one of the only nitrogen fixing insects in the tropics. There's only
so they're trying to bring them back to health ultimately at the end of the day. And
they're trying to bring the ground back to health, because what they do is they take all those, green, which is magnesium and nitrogen rich. They bring it down into the ground and they put their little saliva on it, and then it gets mycelium. That's the only place in tropical soil where you have mycelium, because tropical soil is mainly bauxite. It has no carbon in it.
Wow.
So they're doing an incredible function, but it sucks when you have a cacao farm that you're losing.
Right.
So he told me about the terra preta. I looked into it, and I was already making rocket mass heaters at the time. So I just modified one of my rocket mass heaters to make biochar as I heated my house, and it worked great. And I started to top dress my little cacao grove. Everything just came back to life, and it was like, whoa. And so in seeing what it is like from a purely anecdotal perspective, just in the field, what I was seeing was, one, whatever the plant needed because I was doing biodynamic preps, I was doing all these things like custom bespoke soils and stuff like that. But I could never get my soil right. But when I put the biochar there, I wouldn't even modify my soil. Like I wouldn't dig into the ground and uproot the trees to like add, but all my trees started to just perform and grow and produce. And so after talking with Veda and talking with Dr. Berlando and a couple people that Dr. Marzel Arce, what we come to find is that the biochar in and of itself, because it has such a high diamagnetic charge, water is also diamagnetic. Birds of a feather flock together. Biochar is the most diamagnetic thing that we know of.
Wow.
So like bismuth is a diamagnetic metal.
Define diamagnetic for those who may not be familiar with that.
It resists a magnetic field in all directions.
Got it.
So you can't take a magnet to it and have, usually magnets work on a ferromagnetic level. Mm-hmm. So they take iron-based things. That's the ferrous material, and it'll be attracted to it. Because it's detractive towards a magnetic field, it's also reflective to electrical fields, which we'll get back to.
Okay.
Because this is a big deal. This is what I'm thinking is the biggest deal with biochar. So what they were showing is that this diamagnetic aspect of the biochar in and of itself is very absorptive of telluric currents. So we're very trained in hot electricity. And in hot electricity, we're kind of trained in hot magnetics because of the electromagnetic, frame of thing. But there's biological electricity and there's biological magnetics. And highly diamagnetic things really, really pull that towards them. So you have this diamagnetic water that's attracted to the diamagnetic, biochar. The biochar itself has tons of surface area. So, you're very well versed in Dr. Pollack's work, where whenever you pour water over something that's semi-permeable, it self-structures. Yep. Well, this is the
hydrophilic surface.
Yeah. So this is what it's doing. It goes through there. So you get like the little microcavitation. So you get the ordering that way. As we already discussed, it absorbs all the reactive oxygen species because unlike charcoal, it hasn't had the secondary oxidation. So its entire life, it's like, come. The charcoal, like something you get at the bottom of your fire pit, that's had a secondary oxidation phase. So it's not as absorptive to reactive oxygen species.
Most of our modern lives are spent completely disconnected from the natural world. Artificial light environments, concrete, rubber soles on our feet, non-native EMFs everywhere. We have totally immersed ourselves in a completely unnatural world. Getting outside and putting your feet on the earth is actually vitally important for our health. And that's why I've worn Earth Runners for years, especially when I'm out in nature, whether I'm on a trail, hiking, fly fishing, camping, or just spending time outside at an event like Confluence with the earth beneath my feet. Earth Runners are minimalist sandals that are especially great when you're out in a natural environment. They have a wide toe box and a flexible sole that lets your feet spread, grip, and move naturally on uneven terrain, whether it's trails, grass, sand, or dirt. Instead of restricting your feet the way most modern footwear does, they allow your feet to engage naturally with the ground and move the way they were designed to do in a natural setting. What also makes Earth Runners unique is their conductive grounding design, which allows your body to reconnect with the Earth's natural negative charge while you walk. And as I've discussed on a variety of podcast episodes, negative charge is essential for your body's energy production. If you value getting outside, reconnecting with nature, and moving in a way that your body was designed to move while on natural surfaces, check them out. Head to earthrunners.com or just head to the show notes and use code FORWARD10 at checkout for 10% off. Again, that's FWRD10 for 10% off your order. If you're ready to rewild your health and walk in deeper alignment with nature, then check out Earth Runners and feel the difference from the ground up. Would most quote unquote activated charcoals on the market fall under that category as well?
from the limited testing that we've done, and when I say limited, I've only like looked at probably like 12 other products. They're on average 20% of their product is biochar, upwards of 80% is charcoal.
Okay, got it.
Because it's like you know how like labeling can be misleading.
Yeah,
ours is 98%.
That's crazy.
Yeah, because our kilns we're the only ones well, there's 50 of these kilns in the United States. We're the only ones that using those kilns that are selling a commercial product.
Got it.
And it's because we put all the biomass under vacuum. So we're literally like that alchemist of yore, sucking all the atmosphere out, superheating it, and then super cooling it very fast. It's a very fast heat curve and a very fast cooling curve. And then that gives us a super porous diamagnetic carbon that the way it reads, like if you were just to take it to a chemist and they were to read it, they'd be like, this is inert carbon. There's nothing to it. But here's the thing. You inoculate it, you just give it a little inoculation. Say of like some of your urine mixed with water, or say you have some old milk that you mix with water, or anything that has a culture, and you give it to it, and it just starts propagating that healthy bacteria over and over.
Makes a lot of sense. Again, going back to the microzyma properties of it. Of course.
Yes.
Wow. That's all tying together for me now.
And that's why I say it's the ultimate mother.
Yeah.
Because what does the mother do? She has shelter for you, and she gives you the perfect environment to flourish.
It's pure potential energy.
It is. It's just like, and she has enough surface area to handle all the friends.
Yeah, wow.
Come eat at my house. Come.
Like a true Italian mother.
Exactly. Like just let's mangia. It's really amazing how quickly it proliferates. And because its innate charge is what it is, it doesn't attract the bad stuff.
Wow. That is so fascinating. So on the health level, using this as a sort of binder is helping your body's detox pathways a ton.
Yeah, we have a mutual friend, Dr. Andy Kaufman. He's been testing it with his clients. Have a few other doctors out there that are using it as a binder. It is the binder because there's nothing out there that has more surface area. And nothing has it as much of a diamagnetic charge. So when you combine those two, it's just literally like within your GI tract, it's almost like infinite absorption.
I might hit you up for that.
Oh, I'd love to. I feel like an idiot that I didn't bring any.
It's all good.
But I'll send some to you.
No, I'll buy some from you. I want to support you on that.
Thank you.
Because you gave me some when we were in Mexico for Anarchapulco 2 years ago when everyone was starting to feel a little sicky. I was doing urine therapy and that, and I felt fine the entire time.
Yeah, definitely. And this is the thing too. Like I've been somebody that's been into Shivambu because of my Ayurvedic, roots.
Yeah.
And it's really kind of brilliant because if you just take a little bit of your urine, like your urine's a wonderful biosignaler. You take a little bit of that, you mix it with like some really highly charged water, and then you give that to your biochar. The biochar, just like your plants would know, oh, Alec needs this, Alec needs that. Well, now the biochar starts to signal its environment. Oh, I need this bacterial alchemist. I need this fungal alchemist. I need this, and this to come in to support.
Wow. Then you consume that, and it's like it's not a probiotic, but it's like the best form of what would be a probiotic there is. Wow. That's incredible.
And that's the thing. I've had to kind of go to the mats with a couple of biochemists, and they always come back and tell me the same thing, assuming that without even testing my product yet, they'll come back with the same spiel, and they're just being lazy.
Well, it's also the biochemical model is not the full picture, and they assume that it is, though, too.
Right. But what I tell them just on their level, I say, well, has the biochar you tested in the past, have you ever inoculated it? No. Like, you're missing the whole point.
Right. Well, it's all because even at that level, biochemically, they're coming from from the germ-based model. And it's so crazy because this is just another example of how if you don't understand Antoine Béchamp's original work with microzyma, then you're going to go with the Louis Pasteur model, and that is completely flawed.
Right.
So they're thinking along those lines. Mm-hmm. They're not thinking along the Antoine Béchamp lines. Mm-hmm. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
they don't understand microzyma as a thing.
Yeah. So for me, like what we see in the field is we see incredible yields. Like it just turns out like you need a lot less water because it can hold so much structured water. It's not just it's holding water, it holds structured water.
Right.
Because it has that hydrophilic capacitance to it, what it does is you never get root rot. You know, that's a big, big problem, especially with all the weather modification that goes on. The places that do grow, a lot of times, you know, they'll get flooded or whatever, and you get a lot of root rot. We don't have any root rot.
Are you mixing it in the soil, or how does that work typically?
With my new growth, I do. And then for my orchards, I just top dress.
Really? Just top dress?
Yeah. I'm not going to dig up my trees.
Yeah, well, that makes sense. Yeah.
Like we bought a farm.
But it's just shocking to me to hear that you just top dress, and even that, it works wonders.
Well, this is the whole Veda thing and Chris Winters thing I was telling you about.
I got to get Chris Winters on too. We've talked before.
Yeah, there's an isotropic field that's created. You're literally creating like a spherical field of silence, electrical science. And this is where I feel probably its biggest benefit is coming in just at the right time, because our ground is acting as the return in electrical systems now. So that means we have a lot more electrical noise.
A lot of noise, that's what I was going to say.
Moving through.
We don't have a true ground is what you're saying.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the plants feel this.
Yeah.
The plants know this. And in fact, like when you go to Europe where they still have the return through the wires, plants do so much better there. People do so much better there. They'll eat and drink us under the table, but they're so much healthier because they're not dealing with the same level of, you know, EMF smog and the rest of it.
Totally.
And also they're electrical, like you go put your feet on the ground there for 5 minutes. That's the equivalent of us doing it here for 30 minutes.
Wow.
So what I'm finding with the biochar, and this was a happy accident, I needed some fill when I was building in Costa Rica one time. And I had a client he was actually Austrian, and I didn't have enough aggregate, but I had a lot of biochar. And he runs this beautiful nursery and everything like that. And he's like, he had read all these studies about biochar in the concrete. And I was like, no, it's not heavy enough, whatever. He's like, no, trust me. And so we did it, and the slab was like perfect. It was just beautiful. And I would say,
what percentage biochar relative to concrete?
I was just going to get there. I replaced about 1/3 of my rock aggregate with like clumpy biochar.
That much?
Yeah. And it turned out incredible. Like like when you saw it, like, and the way it felt, the way like when we screeded it, I was just like, whoa. He started showing me all these studies, and he's like, yeah, you know, this will actually EMF remediate. And I'm like, really? And then you see these studies of what the biochar does is because it's so porous and it's so diamagnetic, the two of them makes it like, so if you're a little frequency, say you're a millimeter wave and you're coming towards it, it essentially hits it and infinitely reflects it. There's no angle that a microwave can come and hit it and get through it without being reflected out. And it's crazy. The smaller you make it, the more reflective it gets.
So does it almost have like Faraday properties though, to where if you had it, let's say a Wi-Fi router in a Faraday or in a box that was made out of this material, it could be problematic if you're inside of it?
Yes.
Okay.
But it's a little
So you wouldn't want to put it like in building materials necessarily.
You would want, so we EMF remediate mainly with paint.
Yeah.
So we'll micronize this stuff and throw it in a latex-based paint.
Okay.
Do 3 topical layers of the paint. You know, use low E windows with silver iodide. And like, there's zero EMF in the room.
That's incredible.
So for bedrooms, also we'll make sure we'll isolate whatever the electrical circuits are and have a breaker turn on. Because I've had like EMF sensitive clients that are like, literally they'll go by a normal outlet and there'll be like zapping.
Yeah.
And so for clients like that to like completely cancel and any type of charge getting to them, it's a godsend.
That's amazing.
So, and we can do that with like literally like, you know, this much biochar.
That's crazy. That's all it takes. So going back to the ground thing, given that we don't have like a true ground anymore.
Oh, so that's what I was going to say. Imagine that's in your soil mix.
Yeah.
Now, whatever that return signal is from your house or whatever closed substation is.
Yeah.
Now it's not touching the roots anymore.
Gosh, that's amazing. So you can, not only is that better for the environment around you, but it's also better for your own health to then ground there.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. And it's really kind of cool. The shaman friend I was referring to earlier, he had showed me that it was like 2018 and he like really impacted me. I think that's how I ended up in the Ozarks because he was like, Toph, we're going to have to find caves. I'm like, caves? He's like, yeah, with what's coming, we got to find caves. And he said it in a way where I believed him. I was like, oh, he's serious. He's not playing. And in our area, Costa Rica, there's no caves. There's one. So it was kind of problematic to me. And so when my family decided to move north up into a very cave-rich area, and I was telling him, he's like, yeah, what you're taking up there is needed. And we just reconnected on what the whole system is. It's like the system of putting these big pillars. By big, I mean like 3 foot deep pillars, 3 foot by like 1 foot wide, cylinders of biochar in the very center of your property, if you can, to create this silent, electrically silent isotropic field. And if enough people do it, and they'd be like, if you could have a bird's eye view energetically to see the space, it would create like these little mushroom caps of protection.
Wow.
Because as I'm starting to understand the different layers and frequency ranges that are being used, especially to manipulate our biofield anatomy and all that, I think that technology was kind of refound to kind of give those who have eyes to see the ability to like, okay, now I can like protect my property. I can be a leader within my neighborhood and, get Bill or Sarah or whoever to like, do it on their property and just create more of a field effect where we're signaling to the environment, hey, we're fully aware of what's happening.
Yeah, we know what's up.
We know what's happening. We're doing what we can. Because you can only do what you can.
Yeah.
And we're doing it locally and we're doing it with care and we're doing this way. And I'm here to support you as you're here to support me. That type of thing. So that we're the real steward. And Dr. Mara Zell-Arce, she was so cool because she was showing me the microzyma and the biochar. And I was telling her this whole thing with this silent pillar system. And she's like, it's like you're putting the night sky in the ground. And I was like, yeah, it's literally connecting Father Sky to Mother Earth. And we're the bridge that does that. Mm-hmm. Like that's our call. And if we do that, then that signal is just such a complete whole signal that it really, I think, has a real chance to be a benefit to everybody that's within its field.
Incredible, man.
Mm-hmm.
Man, so are you going to start like making pillars in addition to this? You already are?
Well, I'm not making the pillar. I'm just digging holes and throwing
a bunch of biochar in there. Got it. Wow.
Yeah, it's something that's very simple because for like the last 15 years, I've been teaching people how to make their own biochar.
Right.
And so for me, I'm like, I've always been the DIY guy. Mm-hmm. So that's why it's kind of new for me now to have like a product.
All right, people are too damn lazy. They're not going to build their own. I got to just like make the product.
Well, it was just like I was beating my head out. Like I was just like, because they would tell me what their demands are.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, then you have to build more kilns or whatever. Like I literally had a client in Costa that wanted 40 yards of biochar a week. And I'm like, that's impossible for me. Like that's not a thing. And he knew it was, but that was just the level and the scale of his what do we call them? His Veradura. But now we can scale. Like now with what we have going on, we have enough, feed stock, and we have the right kilns where I can actually give clients what their demand is. And
that's awesome.
And depending on what their application is, they can go ahead and turn around their waste and sell it and then, pay for itself.
So with Black Gold, are you just share the ways that you are selling it. Like, is it just like in bulk, or you can buy it?
We
in
sell it
certain
mainly
quantities?
like to the consumer grade.
Yep.
Is we sell it in 5-gallon bags.
Okay.
A 5-gallon by volume. It doesn't weigh 35 pounds.
Yeah.
It weighs 10 pounds, but it's 5-gallon by volume. So it's like a little rucksack
Mm-hmm.
full of it. And then we have like a starter pack that I think has like 2 of those plus the bioinoculant. We sell the inoculants also. So we sell 2 different inoculants. By the time this comes out, we're going to have a humic acid and a fulvic acid mix that people can do, which is really good stuff. It also has all of this like sea kelp and like just incredible bioactivators, And then we have our business to business. Our business to business, we usually sell by the yard. So some of these bigger operations, like these chicken farms and these cattle ranches and things like that, they usually just come to our facility and we load up their trucks with these massive, sacks that are 1 cubic yard.
I know several cattle ranchers around here. What would be the best use for the biochar for them?
Is to put it in their feed.
In the feed.
In their trough.
Wow.
Yeah, we're finding with the cattle, it's really cool because it greatly reduces. I don't know all the terminology. I'm not a rancher by any, but they get some things in their hooves, like some hoof rot or some, I forget what it is, at least in Missouri. So nice thing too is like the cows are pooping everywhere, right?
Yep.
But they poop out the biochar, but that ends up stabilizing the ground. So some of these ranches that have like 2-3 years in where they've been using the biochar consistently, they find that like they're getting a lot less land erosion.
Amazing.
Because they're stable carbon.
Wow.
Yeah. So with the cows too, all the animals that we've tested this with, we've also tested this with swine, with piggies. The pigs do incredible with it because the pigs will eat anything. It's funny though, the pig's meat color changes a little bit, gets a little bit gray.
Really?
Yeah. Egg laying chickens, the shell will get a little bit gray too.
Interesting. Okay.
But the shell's so much harder. Like I'm like cracking the eggs at my house now and I'm just like, ah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's not like the old school I'd buy like eggs, from the sick supermarket. And like I could just like barely touch it. It just like falls apart. So I'm trying to get with the Strong sisters and like trying to like teach them about this. But the business to business, like with the big animal farms, that's really, or I call them animal farms, whatever you're going to call that, ranch or whatever.
Yeah.
They're like full on buying a lot of our stuff.
That's awesome. Wow. You mentioned, I wrote it down as a note, reflective towards magnetic fields. You kind of touched on that though, right?
Yeah.
Okay. That's what you're talking about with how...
Well, diamagnetic materials, so they'll reflect a ferromagnetic field, but not necessarily a biological magnetic field, like a telluric current.
Okay.
So what we're finding in the field, especially if you do a little electroculture action, which is like when you have some sort of conductor up high to take the potential and then distribute that potential through your soil by your roots, we get like a doubling and tripling effect with the diamagnetic biochar, because technically the biochar would resist a current, right? Because a current is hot electricity. It's both an electrical and magnetic, it's an EM frequency, right? But that's not what potential is. Voltage isn't actually making a magnetic current. And because it's potential, the more potential that we create high, when that comes down and it goes in and you start to get the cation exchange that occurs through the biochar and the organics in the soil, it's like a multiplicative effect where like our best test case of this decreased his plants by 4x for the same output.
No way.
Yeah.
Decreased his plants by 4x for the same output. So he had 1/4. No.
He had 1/4 the plants for the same output.
With the same output. Oh, wow.
So with less water, with less biological inputs, with less everything.
That's incredible.
And the thing I like to point out too is that biochar in and of itself is stable. It's not like charcoal. Charcoal, because it's gone through the secondary oxidative stress, it will break down around water. It will break down around other things. This stuff you can crush. Biochar you can obviously crush, but it doesn't go away. It doesn't dissipate into the atmosphere unless it gets really dry and like somebody kicks it up. But like overall, like that's going to stay as like a constituent of your soil unless it gets washed away.
Is there a lot of naturally occurring biochar that is formed through forest fires? That may seem like a silly question.
This is the coolest thing. And I love just like the synchronicities of life. It would happen in savannas where you had grasslands, where the fire would be very fast and it would hit the chud, like the bottom part of the grass that was really wet. So that would heat up and cool down very fast. And then you'd get that, but the heat curve was fast up and fast down. And then you'd end up with at the wet part of it, it was almost like a self-curing agent. And then that's why we had these like the plains and the savanna of the United States used to be so fertile and so rich. And ever since that went away, you can look at the state of Iowa. We're working with some legislatures in Iowa. They've been using the big, chemical side of things. There's no carbon in their soil anymore.
No way. That bad.
It's that bad.
Wow.
To the point where like their water's undrinkable.
Oh my gosh.
Because they have carbon's a filter. Like most people know carbon as a filter. And now that there's no carbon in the ground anymore, it's mainly just clay. All the different chemicals from the different practices, all the NPKs and the glyphosate and all the rest of it are all creating a really crazy, it's a very acidic growth situation in the aquifer.
Gosh.
Yeah. So, and that's something that like we saw a lot in Florida, because Florida doesn't have, like South Florida where I'm from, it's mainly sand. You don't really have soil per se. I mean, you have muck out in the Everglades and then you have sand by the beach. And in between you have something kind of resembling something like, but the water table there was so horrible too to drink. Like anything south of Lake Okeechobee, the water is undrinkable.
It's just so interesting, the hubris of human beings, assuming that something like glyphosate was created for what was good intentions, let's say. That's a big assumption itself. But just the hubris of human beings to think that, oh yeah, we can do this and manipulate this and it'll be okay. We'll only affect one thing. No big deal.
No big deal.
And then like the whole state of Iowa, the water's undrinkable. Like that is insane.
Yeah.
Insane, man.
Yeah, it's exasperated by like the modern practices.
Yeah.
Like I see, the whole big chemical industrial complex. It's directly tied to fake money.
Yeah.
The way the whole loaning industry works with interest and everything like that.
Yep.
And so if I go into East Missouri, where they have like a lot of these, big agro systems near the Mississippi River, it's just gross. These combines are all in the millions of dollars, and like the loans that have to be taken out just to buy the fertilizer and the seed.
It's insane.
They all have the Terminator seeds where they like all those practices, and it's not promoted to the youth to go into farming. So you don't have like a new investment of new eyes and like people that really want to do this.
Right.
Because they're dealing with multi-generations of just barely skirting by economically.
Well, then you have the farmers who do wake up to the game and they're literally living on government subsidies like they're not living off of welfare and things like this. What I'm saying is their whole operation is relying on government subsidies in order to exist. So they literally cannot switch off of them even if they wake up.
That's why for me, like, where I was in Costa Rica, pretty much all of us moved down there for food sovereignty.
Yeah.
We were uneducated to the fact that the tropics isn't a good place for food sovereignty unless you're like a frugivore or whatever.
Yeah.
But even being a vegetarian down there is hard because the vegetables that are delectable to like, somebody of a Northern European, perspective, they don't really grow well down there.
Yeah.
So, but we all kind of were in the food sovereignty thing. And my friends that they actually founded Vida Authentica, which was like this all organic co-op. It came down to like the only way to ensure your food is to have essentially the ringing cedars of Anastasia. You have your hectare of land and you have to have a greenhouse. Because like in today's world with the cloud seeding and all the rest of it, like there's a bunch of stuff coming down. You have to have a way to purify your water, and you have to have like the manpower to like, plant and You have to have the full permaculture thing where you have animals that give you all.
So it's much harder to have food sovereignty down there than you think it would be.
Oh God, yeah. Nobody has food sovereignty down there.
That's crazy because on the outside, I've never been to Costa Rica. You would assume that like, oh yeah, there's an abundance of fruit growing everywhere. So it's really easy.
People's Azure orders down there are greater than.
No way.
Oh, it's laughable, the modeling that they put on like Instagram and stuff. Like,
yeah.
Like I was you would laugh at this. So I had, broken out of the vegetarian stupor by reading Walter Russell. And Walter Russell is not Walter Russell, excuse me. This was Rudolf Steiner.
Okay.
So Steiner was talking about how life eats life.
Yeah.
And as soon as he said that, like broke me out of the whole vegetarian thing because I'd been around plants and been sensitive enough to know that plants are alive too. So like, I'm alive, I'm going to eat that. And Steiner, the way he put it is like, when you eat something of a lower energetic level than you bring it to your level. Sort of like Eileen's saying, something of sufficient coherence will bring everything up.
Yep.
Rising tide. And so that kind of set me free from the delusion of, personifying these things and being like, but it also made me more responsible in a way. It's very odd how that happened. Well, down there were so many frugivores. And dude, they were all lying. I would catch them in the town here and there because they had their big, Instagram accounts or whatever, and their retreats. And they'd be like, I've only been eating this forever. And then I'd see them at a local cafe, like in the back eating. I'm like, oh yeah. My one friend had this 110 acre farm right in this valley, pretty idyllic, lots of big water, planted thousands of fruit trees. And it's illegal to hunt down there. Right?
Is it really?
Yeah.
That makes it even worse than,
Yeah, it's illegal to hunt.
Wow.
So, and he's like, yeah, Toph, I'm having these real problems with the deer. And I'm like, can I set up a hunting blind on your property? I'm like, why would you plant all these fruit trees unless you were wanting to attract the wildlife? He literally had a conniption fit. I'm like, dude, you have all the deer on your property. Like they're coming to your fruit. You've been successful. Who can eat more than like 2 trees worth of fruit a year? You have thousands.
Right.
And that was so funny to like the Ticos, which are like the native Costa Ricans and some of us gringos that were under that delusion. It was like, you plant all these fruit trees, you're going to attract the things that actually have the real caloric density, the animals.
Yeah.
And so all the Costa Ricans knew that they would go trapping and hunting on all these massive fruit farms because that's where all the tapasquinte and all the other animals would go because that's where the food was, right? But there's no real like substantive aspect to that. So people usually go through like a 3-year, 4-year, I'm holier than thou, I'm vegan superpower, better than everybody thing. And then they get over it. They usually get like, some sort of flesh-eating parasite and bow out.
Most of the people that I know who were vegan for the long term have switched out of it for health-related reasons. I will say though, and like this just shows the adaptability and the power of belief and I guess the variances in, for lack of a better term, genetics, that human beings are adaptable. Because I know some who have been vegan for 20, 30 years and are thriving, just doing absolutely fine, which do I think that's for everyone? No. Do I think there's one diet for everyone? Absolutely fucking not. Nor do I think that diet is the most important thing either, but it's just interesting. Something to be said about like eating seasonally and eating locally as best you can though too. Like what's biologically appropriate given the context of who you are and where you are in space,
Yeah. I just got really frustrated in that community because there was very obvious these mothers were starving and their kids were starving.
Dude, that makes me really frustrated. Ayla Cuenca, I'm sure she'll still have the same sentiments. I haven't talked to her about this in a while, but she said that the highest prevalence of gestational diabetes amongst people in our community, so to speak, who are like health conscious, are in mothers who are like strictly vegan for their pregnancy. It's like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. I saw it over and over and over again because I was massaging all these people. Like the body does not lie.
Yeah.
It was like, you need a steak.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So if you want to check out Black Gold BioChar, is that what it's called? Black Gold BioChar?
blackgoldbiochar.com.
Okay. That'll all be in the show notes.
I'm thinking now that we're at war, we should have victory gardens again.
Victory gardens.
Because literally we do need gardens just from a food cost perspective. Like just a food cost perspective. If you have a little bit of land, even if you have like a balcony somewhere and you just want to do like just a little bit, like, you can do all your seed starts in biochar if you want to. Like just grow something, get that grounding effect going in your life again, where you are producing at least one thing that you're eating. Get back into that chain, because the food costs are just going to go up and up and up and up.
Dude, that's what a lot of people aren't thinking about when it comes to this situation with Iran right now, is if the Strait of Hormuz it's been closed now for what, like 2 weeks or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And
uninsured.
And like supposedly 20% of the world's oil flows through that strait. The costs of everything are going to go up because oil is how our systems run these days. Like that's just the reality of it. So like food costs are absolutely going to go up. I have a question about fire ants, because we grew in our old house. We just moved to a new house. So we're still getting all of our garden set up, but we had a bunch of raised beds and we had a bunch of melon plants growing, and fire ants in Texas are the worst things
I've heard.
ever. The worst, man. I went away for 1 week. I had this awesome compost pile that like you could like almost eat it. It smelled so good. Mm-hmm. Worms in it that I inoculated some worms into it, and it was great soil that I was creating out of this compost pile. And I went away for a week, and the compost pile was literally dust when I got back because of the fire ants, dude. It made me so mad. What do you like? Would biochar help with something like that?
It depends. Like in situations like that, I need to have more information.
Yeah,
because I haven't had to deal with that type of ant problem.
Yeah.
So I can't speak in an educated way about it.
I'm going to send you a video next time we have our stuff like going.
Yeah, I do really recommend putting biochar in people's compost, just because I think it accelerates it by over 50% of decomposition. Once it attracts the detritivores and they just start to break everything down, like the whole process is much, much faster.
Cool.
So in my mind's eye, the way I like to think of things is like I'm a pretty lazy person, and anything that can accelerate a process while keeping the quality, there's going to be a greater chance of success. So instead of waiting, a year to have my compost be ready, if it's 6 months, then I'm much more likely to use it and do the rest of it.
Got it.
Yeah.
Cool. Hey, y'all. I'm here with Melissa Kupsch from Remedy Academy of Homeopathy. We are so stoked here at The Way Forward to be partnering with Melissa and Remedy in order to spread the message of homeopathy across the world, and also to partner on the eventual development of healing centers across the United States.
People are pretty quickly coming to realize that frequency is the future of medicine. We are witnessing the great resurgence of homeopathy right now. We're really moving away from that suppressive medical model, whether it's for eczema, asthma, hormones, fertility, anxiety, depression, trauma, whatever it is, it all starts as energy in the person's field first. If we change our field, we can completely change our life. Our 2-year academy is open worldwide to anyone who wants to become a homeopath. We've got 5 lecturers, and we currently have over 500 students enrolled, which is record numbers in our field. A career in homeopathy is amazing for anyone who wants flexibility in their work and who wants to be valuable in creating this new world. We have stay-at-home parents enrolled. We have ex-medical professionals, grandparents signed up who want to learn how to heal their grandchildren and pass on that invaluable knowledge. We even have husband and wife teams. So my husband enrolled in the course with no prior knowledge of health as a background, and he is loving it.
Kylie is also enrolled as well. So my partner is, and she's so stoked to become a homeopath and to be helping to spread this message across the world.
The thing that we hear from so many of our students is, I found my thing. Homeopathy is the key. We harness frequencies from nature and we alter the field of all creations. So if anybody wants to join us or they want to know more about it, they can visit our website.
Yeah, and all that information will be in the show notes. So if you want to learn more about Remedy Academy, also Remedy Collective, also some of the homeopathic products that they have, please just head to the show notes. All of that will be listed there. I want to revisit monism a little bit. And we were talking off camera. I was just sharing a little bit like my take on everything. And I think you mostly agreed with it, but I'm going to just articulate that here. So I've come to understand that there's like within the, I guess you could say like quote unquote non-duality space, there's like two primary ways that people can look at non-duality. Most fall into one camp or the other without really realizing it. And that's pantheism versus panentheism. And so pantheism, all is God, equates God with the cosmos, which means that like we are fundamentally God, right? And then panentheism is that we are all in God, asserts that the universe is within God, the world is within God, but God is greater than or transcends the universe. So, and that might be like, I've heard it explained in different ways. Essentially, what that's getting at is pantheism is the strict non-dualist who's like, I am quite literally God, like all is occurring within me, right? Panentheism is like, I recognize, this is the way that I take it, I would call myself a panentheist of some sorts, that I am inextricably linked to God. I'm fundamentally an aspect of God, but I am not God.
Right.
I'm not omniscient, omnipotent, omnipresent, omnibenevolent. I am not that.
Right.
Right. At my core, though, I am inextricably linked to, I am a part of that. And in some ways you could say I am that, but I'm not.
Right.
At least in the context of this experience, I am clearly not. Right. And it's purposeful. I would just love to hear your thoughts on that, because I too have come to be, I won't say frustrated, but just like, I'm tired of hearing the sort of new age types that are equating themselves with God from like a very like all is one perspective that leads to almost an Aleister Crowley type approach of do what thou wilt, like a very like dark satanic, whether they intend to or not.
Right.
But you see that a lot in Austin, man. Without naming names, there's a lot of people who have sort of adopted a hedonistic spiritual perspective where they allow their hedonistic tendencies to hide behind spiritual language under the guise of all is one.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
I do.
And at the same time, there's still truth and beauty in some aspects of that. And like, I do think at the base level of this experience, and people have, whether it's even just through like deep breath work or like a deep meditation or an ayahuasca ceremony, these sort of transcendental experiences that allow them to possibly see a different layer of this reality that would indicate that there is this like interconnected fabric where we are at some level one, for lack of a better term. But all that to say, I'd just love to hear your thoughts on it.
Yeah, like my journey with this has been pretty extensive.
Yeah.
I've gone into the philosophical depths of both. I've never termed panentheism like you did, but I really like that. If I was to give you my cosmological view, is that it would be more panentheistic.
Yeah.
This realm that we're in is an envelope and it's temporal. God is eternal. So that doesn't mean like the temporal needs the eternal. The eternal doesn't need the temporal.
Correct. Yeah.
In this realm, like we had already discussed, like is the realm of surprises and consequences. And that teaches us boundaries. And so having those boundaries, God knows what our souls need more than we do. And I like the Christian story of like, he created a human family because he wanted to have the experience of a human family, of a being that is made in his image, made with free will, made as sovereign. So for that being to have that, You have to have surprises and consequences. It's just that easy. And this envelope, I've experienced it at a very deep level with like looking at what the origin of my awareness, where that comes from the Vedanta Advaita side of things, from the pantheism perspective. And I found it to be utterly false. And I found every culture that promotes it is hiding slavery.
Interesting.
They hide slavery to the max. They're literally hierarchical slavery based, systems, whether it was the Siamese Buddhists in that area of Laos, where my stepmother was from, or the deep central Hindi class in India. They're literally like, they have a hierarchy system that they run. And so they can talk all the flowery, oh, who is that? Who am I? What is the origin of this? But it's really there to get somebody to flip all their energy where they're no longer expressing their will. Now, this might sound a little bit weird. In my life, whenever I've tried to go away from the natural endowments that God has given me, in a very weird way, it creates a loop of behavior that becomes hedonistic, that becomes something that's disproportionate to the environment, something that's not a benefit. Whenever I have fully ever experienced something that I've been endowed with, it's complete, it's done, and there's no longer an obsession. And then because the obsession goes, there's no hedonism. There's no overdoing it. The cultures I was in where there was just this over-glorification of self-inquiry or over-glorification of the hatred of self for the glorification of the big S.
Yeah.
To the one of them, there was this tremendous, tremendous pursuit of different hedonistic things, if not complete immorality. Like total dehumanization, because that's what the process is. Instead of actually looking at it and be like, no, God obviously made you different than he made me or her or whatever. We're different. We're given different abilities. We see the world differently. We're given different sets of circumstances. That is by design, guys. That's literally by design. Like we're not supposed to see things the same. We're not supposed to do things the same. Like at all. And it's literally this thing where it's like the creditors in my life that I know that I consider very enlightened beings. And I'm not saying that they claim to be enlightened. I'm just saying they're enlightened beings in the sense that they really don't get triggered. Like they can handle whatever. No biggie. And they're not fronting. They're not trying. You'll never know their names. They'll never broadcast it. They'll never have a class saying, come, I'll teach you the way.
10-step process on how to, yeah.
These beings are literally they're uniquely individuated and okay with it. Happy people are never trying to tell other people what to do. Ever. Even if they're making tons of money on it. If you follow these 10 steps, fundamentally, there's a lie there. Because none of us are the same. There's not a single, in my 50 years of life, I've never seen two people the same. They can't even get the doppelgangers right anymore. Dude, nobody's the same, because no matter when your creation or your inception or whatever, whenever that was, it was always in a different temporal marker. And none of us can actually occupy the same exact space at the same exact time. So just given those two vectors, none of us are the same ever. We cannot be the same. You're not the same Alec that you were 10 years ago. And you're going to be a very different Alec in another 10 years. So people just need to be honest about that. And so I really think the whole thing that we're in this temporal realm that is constantly changing and morphing, because as the commandments say, we're not supposed to make any idols here. Mm-hmm. I think that's a truism. I think that's really a truth. Like if you're idolizing something in the temporal, you're not building your treasures in heaven. So you're kind of effed. Like that's not, like we're not supposed to have idols here. I think that's why the only constant that people experience here is change.
Yeah.
So within the temporal realm, just by its very nature, it can't be eternal because it's temporal. And because it's temporal and everything's constantly morphing and changing, man, the consistency that I have felt the few times where I feel like I've come in the presence of God, and there's only been a couple times, and I'm not even saying it's an entity out there, right? Yeah. But I'm also not saying it's within me. You know, I'm not saying either. I don't know how to describe it. But I had a near-death experience where I was in such utter pain in my body that when the pain got to such an extreme level, I wanted to die. I was just like, I'm out. I don't need to experience it. I'm gone. I'm quitting.
Yeah.
Coach, pull me.
Yeah.
And then I got this brief glimpse, and I didn't feel like it was me, but it was being experienced through me, where this awareness was so, when I say overjoyed, it was so overjoyed to be experiencing anything. It was the animating force. And the way my consciousness transduced this was like, oh, this is the sponsor, like of this realm. This is the sponsor. Because it was just like, oh, this pain is happening. Like we were talking earlier about like a lot of just like corrective therapy is just voicing what's so.
Yeah, just naming what is.
It's just like, oh, this is what's so. And like imagine the ultimate of that, where it's just like, yes, brain debilitation. Yes. Like that's what it felt like I was experiencing. And then when I got to see the glimpse from that perspective, immediately my sickness retracted.
Interesting.
And it was gone within a day.
Wow.
Like literally like fluids coming out of every orifice. Within 24 hours, it was done. And it was just that one little glimpse, that like that sponsoring energy of like, this is the anything that's occurring.
See, in that moment, did you get the sense that awareness, whoever it was that was aware, this is where it gets so tricky, even with panentheism, was you in your truest essence, or was it not you? You see what I'm saying?
I don't think it was me. Like I had the awareness of it.
You had the awareness of it, but it was experiencing it through you.
Yeah, because I was there complaining. I think it let itself be known. So the way I say it is like this: like if you're a rally car race driver, you're only there because the sponsors paid for you to be there.
Yeah.
This is the sponsoring energy of existence.
Yeah, got it.
Like it's not me, but without it, I'm not here.
Right. Yeah. And then that's where it's like semantically, at some deep level, it is, but it's not within the context of here. You see what I'm saying?
So philosophically, this is what I like. This is where I go with people is like, I know that the human experience is that we live the paradox of we were started.
Yeah.
We didn't start ourselves. We were started by the creator. But at the same time, we're eternal. Like a part of us is eternal. Now that's a paradox.
It is. Yep.
But that's the human experience.
That's my point. And that's what I'm getting at is it's like that clearly wasn't you, but at some deep level, like that was a part of you that you are now aware of. And it's like, oh, now that I'm aware of that part of me that is primordial, deep within me that like needed this experience to even experience it.
Right.
Now I recognize that as part of me and
And so that's where, for
you see
me,
what I'm saying? Does that resonate?
I completely
words don't.
No, I completely understand it. Like for me, because like you originally asked about free will, right?
Yeah.
And the way I say it is objectively, like the objective universe, we really have no choice.
Right.
Subjectively, we do.
Right.
So we do have free will. And I really think that sponsoring awareness, the way I experienced it, and this is like going on 20 years ago now, and that sponsoring awareness is like, I'll just call it God. That energy is just like, it's so excited to see how we subjectively see its creation.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's not telling us what we should think about things,
right,
or how we should feel about things. But the objective bulwark of civilization, because you could have two people standing right next to each other that have relatively similar backgrounds and they're looking at the same thing and one's in heaven and the other one's in hell.
Right.
It's because subjectively, internally, that each being has its own free will to decide, is the glass half empty or is it half full or is neither, whatever. And so the panentheism makes much more sense to me. I feel like we're in this envelope of temporal creation. It is temporal, so it's going to go away. It had a beginning, it's going to have an end. But, the paradox is, even though we were created to experience it, for somehow we're part of eternity,
right?
Which to me, my human mind can't figure that out.
No, it's so.
But it's more on like a feeling, it's not a mental construct. It's
not. I know exactly what you mean, dude.
Like I can feel it through my heart. Like I can actually feel the horizon when I contemplate it. Like it's just like. It's not something that's here.
No.
It's a heart-based thing.
I know exactly what you mean. And that's why words cannot describe it no matter how hard you try. You know what I mean? Like an ayahuasca ceremony is a perfect example. And I'm not relating that to God. But what I'm saying is like, it's not something that you can describe with words adequately. It's experiential.
Right.
It's here. It's a feeling thing. And it's like other people who've done it, it's like, you just have that feeling, that resonance with like, we both had that feeling before.
Right.
It's that type of thing. You can't describe it with words because it's not here.
No.
It's a feeling thing, which is extending out through your heart.
Yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. That's how it is with me, man. It's like.
Well, we're both water. We both have water in our charts prominently. So water people are feelers.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, I talk to my Aquarius friends and they'll sit there and show me liturgy. I'll be like, whatever. They can't feel anything. They're just thinking about their feelings. They're just like, I'm dominant water. I'm feeling this.
Oh, man. Okay, since we're on the topic of God and we had our conversation on Christ's millennial reign 18 months ago now?
No, it was last April.
Was that only a year ago?
Yeah.
Bro, it feels like 5 years ago and also like 6 months ago.
Dude, you haven't aged more than 3 years, bro.
I appreciate that, man. Thanks a lot. I think there's like a period of, we've had our third child. I was talking to my dad about this where it's like, when you have that many kids under, teenage years all at the same time, you go through this period of like rapid aging. And then as they get older, you start to decline in the rapid aging process. So like, I feel like, I'm 33 years old and I feel like, no, I look 33. It's not like, oh, you're 33, you look 25. But I'm sure 10 years from now, it'll be like, I haven't aged as much, hopefully. Anyway, at least if my genetics pan out the way that I think with my dad, everyone thinks my dad's my brother. And I'm just like, I hate that. Yeah. So I wanted to talk about any new revelations you've had related to the millennial reign stuff, or just anything that's percolating inside of you related to it.
Oh man, there's so much.
I know that's a big question, but
no, I love it because it's like my favorite. It's what I'm most fascinated with. Because especially now I've always been like a pseudo material scientist as a contractor, as like a builder, because I built with so many different mediums that were masonry mediums. I got into the study of geopolymers, and geopolymers are kind of fun. People know that as like Roman cement or whatever, but the geopolymers are essentially like a crystal. Oop, I lost our crystal. Oh, there it is. So you're just making, it's like a man-made crystal or rock. And what I'm seeing now with so many of these different structures, because there's so many more people out there that are exploring the notion of it, I'm seeing so much more architecture that's more and more brilliant than I ever knew. And I really think all this was human built, but it was inspired, and it was humans under an incredible love for life and God. Because when I see some of these structures, I just did an interview with, do you know JT Follows JC?
I love that dude.
Yeah.
We've talked about getting him on this show a couple of times.
He's a great guy.
I love that guy so much. He's so genuine. You can tell.
Yeah, I can call him a friend now.
Yeah.
He and I were sharing notes before our podcast the other day, and he's just showing me all these reels. And I'm just like, I should put this in first person. When I look at these structures, I feel, I'm not saying this is like the difference between panentheism and pantheism. I feel the presence of God, meaning I'm in awe and I'm in reverence to the point past the building. I'm not idolizing the building.
No.
I feel the horizon. My heart is open. And I know the people that built that felt that. I know at the very least, the architects and the engineers that built that felt that. So when people are mulling around with logistics and all that, I know that better than most too, because I've built on the sides of mountains in rural Costa Rica where there's no roads and we have to hoof everything in. Like I've literally had building projects where I've had water buffalo dragging my building supplies up to the site. So I can speak on the fact that you don't build with really heavy things without roads. You just don't. It's impossible. Logistically, it's impossible. Given that these people were building like the most inspired geometries in the most beautiful, permanent way. I mean, permanent relative to us, in proportions that make no sense for our common thing. It's just the more I look at it for real, I'm like, it's so obvious. If I never would have had the overlay of like, you know, the Prussian school system on my little mind as a kid, I literally, like, it's the most obvious thing in the world to see. Because as a little kid, I remember where my mind went was like, why are all the adults always at war?
My son just asked that literally the other day.
Like I literally, like as a little kid, I was just like, so like, I'm like, wait a minute. You guys know everything and yet you're like, it's always war. Like that's all it was on the news. And it's just like, don't you know things?
You're right.
Like, don't you know that's
Isn't the whole point of knowing things is to know how to prevent that from happening? Right.
Yeah, it's just hilarious, like looking back at it. But I never like, you know, I had an uneducated palate of looking at things. And my dad built skyscrapers. You know, my dad was there like in the boom of the 80s with the SNL, you know, all those banks, you know, whitewashing all that cocaine money.
Right.
In South Florida. And so I grew up going and seeing these massive cranes out there and seeing the like going to where they're doing the hurricane testing and all that. Like that was my childhood. And I can't say that it ever came to me because it wasn't until I went to the went to the nation's capital in 5th grade. You know, every 5th grader does that. And I remember walking into like, I forget which building it was where they had the massive dome in there. And I was just like, this is a different thing. This is a totally different thing. And then later when I went to go visit my friends in Tallahassee at FSU and like going into that state capitol building, I'm like, and then going to Michigan State Capitol. But you were, as a kid, I was never educated on like the timelines that they were given for all this stuff.
Can I just comment on that real quick?
Sure.
it is wild now, knowing what we know, to think about how that feeling of awe and wonder and inspiration related to God that the building evokes inside of us, for us before we're awake, is automatically associated with government.
Right. That is all on purpose, man.
Yeah. It's just wild to think about it like that.
Yeah, it's all on purpose. And I bet you a bunch of the real patriots out there that joined the armed services, they probably did the 5th grade tour too.
Of course.
And it hit them deep in their heart that they branded this American.
Yep.
And I'll protect this to the end of my days. I'm pretty sure a lot of people are under that.
Yep.
So for me, this last year, since last we talked, it was like really getting to know that and then really understanding genetics and understanding how many of the people that didn't. So from what we can tell with a bunch of different, I guess they were like news pamphlets within some of these asylums that were there, these convalescent homes at the turn of the 20th century, was a lot of these people weren't buying the history.
Right.
You know, Brian the Demon Racers, JT Follows JC, you know, even Paul Stobbs, all these guys are showing like, look, you're reading these books at the end of the late 1800s, and they're lying to us about all of the history, guys. Like literally, like none of this is true. And like they're all, you know, praise God, praise Jesus, like all this type of stuff.
Real quick, I just want to make sure the audience is getting what you're saying there. What you're saying there is that there's indication from some of these insane asylums, which were ubiquitous in the late 19th, early 20th century.
Right.
That the reason some of those people were in there is because they were questioning the historical narrative primarily.
You're right. So one of the big things I'm kind of worried about, and I'm not really worried about it, but I could see the play, is now like with the DSM-5 and stuff like that. And then the move to biometrics and AI.
Yep.
Who's to say that they're digitally not going to say you're a psychotic?
Right.
Right. Well, at the turn of the 19th century or turn of the 20th century, that's literally, you were thrown in prison or thrown in these asylums if you dissented on the historical perspective.
That's insane.
And then you have all the orphan trains and all this stuff. So I don't know if I shared this with you, but one of the best books I read this year, I have to admit, I didn't read many, but one of the best books I read, I just started off as like a farce. I thought it was just this guy, Doc Brown. I liked his country accent online, and he wrote this book called Epic of Esau. And he had kind of looked into the millennial reign and, you know, the Little Season stuff and all that stuff. But he had this theory that Esau killed Gilgamesh, who was Nimrod. Because Nimrod is just a title. It's like saying devil Satan is an adversary. Well, I forget what Nimrod actually stands for. It's like the recuser or something like that.
I can look it up. Keep going.
Yeah. Well, he like goes through the biblical texts in a couple of, he's very good at reading a bunch of the Jewish, what do they call them? Pilgrims. And he kind of pieced together the story where, you know, Esau, because he was like one of these cryptid people. He started this whole thing in, you know, like 5 or 6 years ago as a cryptid researcher. Well, a few years ago, there was this woman that claimed that she was having this constant communication with this cryptid, and I think she was in the Smoky Mountains. Okay, and this cryptid would talk to her psychically, and she would feed it. She never really saw it per se; she'd see it out, but like, and this cryptid ended up sharing with her that it was a race such and such. Well, that race is like a derivative. It's like literally a word that they have in the Jewish pilgrims as a descendant of the Amalekites, the bloodlickers.
Wow.
And so his whole premise was like Esau, you know, Esau was like, he was born head to toe with red fur, you know, and he had to fool his dad. to make his dad think he was Jacob and all the rest of it to get the inheritance. And he had mated with 3 other women. And I forget, I think one was a Horite, the other was an Amalekite, and the other one was an Edomite. Okay. And all of those lines are lines of Nephilim. So this got me on the whole Nephilim train for a bit. And I was like, I've never really ever wanted to go down like the genetic thing or the God, because to me, like if I am to like follow or really imbibe the Bible, I like the idea that Jesus was the new covenant, and this isn't a blood thing, right? But I'm reading this book and he's making this really compelling thing. So I do a podcast with Dave Murphy, goes by Allegedly Dave. Have you ever heard of?
I like Dave Murphy.
Yeah. So, and allegedly Dave.
Black dude from the UK, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's a Black Israelite. Yeah. So he doesn't believe in the New Testament at all. He's like, no, that's all a fib. And so I link him with Doc Brown and I'm like, okay. So my boy Doc over here is saying that like pretty much Esau killed Gilgamesh, right? Well, this is all pertinent to this war thing that we got going on.
I was just thinking that whole thing, dude.
So check this out. In 2003, they found Gilgamesh's remains.
And Hillary Clinton was emailing about it a ton per WikiLeaks.
Like it was like she had like 1,000 emails about we got to get. So guess where they apparently took Gilgamesh's remains? This is what Dave filled.
Iran?
They took it to the Ukraine.
To Ukraine.
Check this out. This gets fun. Like,
because it was in Iraq.
It was in Iraq.
Yeah, it was in Iraq.
So they attack, shock and awe. We go to the history and antiquities place.
Yep.
Ransack the place, go into the basement, take all the genetics, get shipped to the Ukraine. Well, Dave was filling in for me. He goes, he believes in the orphan trains were essentially, we're trying to figure out, because I've had this experience too I've massaged some humans. They look human, but they don't. So Dave is like, yeah, it's pretty interesting. During the Ukraine war, there were over 750 orphanages that released over 2 million orphans into the world during the Ukraine conflict.
Like the one right now?
Yeah, the one in 2022 and 2023. The last time there was that many orphans that flooded from one area was at the turn of the 20th century. And so while we're spitballing, I'm like, dude, do you think they took the Gilgamesh, because Gilgamesh, if you're going to call him Nimrod or Gilgamesh or whatever.
Nimrod, by the way, means either A, skillful hunter, or B, a foolish or inept person.
Right. That was part of Doc Brown's whole thesis, was that Esau was one of these people he was like the head honcho hunter also. And so he has this, he likes to liken it to the whole, what was that series called where there can only be one? The immortals fight each other. I
don't know.
I'm forgetting what it is. Okay. It's not important. But anyway, so here we have this thing. Like, let's just say they did find the tomb of Gilgamesh. Number one, why is that important? We know the context of yellow cake and invading Iraq for weapons of mass destruction. It was all.
Have you seen the Chappelle Show skit?
I love it, dude. I'm constantly sharing that.
Dude, that's one of my favorite.
Them niggas got yellow cake. Yellow cake. It's one of the funniest things ever.
That shit is so funny, man.
And then he's got his homeboy and he's like, opens up his fly jack. He's like, see this stuff right here?
It's so good.
It's so good.
Yeah.
The yellow cake was Gilgamesh's DNA. Let's just say that. They take it to the Ukraine. 20 years later, we have this war. Now we have 2 million new Eastern European beings from the Ukraine that are taken all around the world. Now, Dave's bias is that white people are evil.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I regularly really upset him because of my different viewpoints, and I am the white devil to him. But a good white devil, like a white devil that he'll tolerate.
Yeah, like you're still his homie in some ways.
Because I don't take it personally. Like everybody has their things. Like he's a very methodical person. He's patient. I appreciate that. I had to explain to him Owen Benjamin's.
God.
Because
I would love to see him and Owen on a podcast.
I almost made it happen.
Dude.
I almost made it happen. I was really like,
that would be so funny.
Yeah, because he was under the wrong assumption that there was like, some hostility.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, it's a behavior.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't know if you ever saw the Chris Rock special, 1996, Bring the Pain, but that was by far the funniest, truest thing ever said. I love Black people. I hate,
Yeah.
And it was like, and obviously, allegedly, Dave hadn't ever seen that. So, but he was starting to get the point. Anyway, so allegedly Dave was like, okay, most of the orphan trained kids were white. Most of the incubator babies were white. We know that cloning started in 1897 in Germany.
Per what? How do we figure that out?
What's the name of I've seen pretty much the same like excerpts. I've seen it from Matt. Okay. Your friend. I've seen it.
Yeah, let's set that aside.
So essentially in 1897, like they had been working towards cloning, plants forever.
Got it.
Figured it out. They were cloning animals from the 1860s through the 1870s. And apparently when it became public knowledge was in 1897. It's just like they tell us, Paris was the city of lights before electricity.
Right. Hilarious.
Guys, there was a whole other thing going on.
Right.
So the cloning thing happened. And then very shortly after that, we have all these orphanages and we have all these, incubator babies. We also have the children from the excommunicated people from the social class because they believed in a history that wasn't being taught.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so Dave surmises that the new genetics that they put out there is because this is like another push. They're doing another push to bring this energetic pattern of the Nephilim to the forefront.
Wow.
Now, Doc Brown, he kind of skirts at it. He's a good old boy. He's a nice guy. He's the author of Esau, the Epic of Esau, the book that I read. But to me, from a millennial reign of, like a post-millennial reign of Christ perspective, a little season perspective, it makes too much sense. It makes so much sense. When I was a little kid, I was like, why are we watching all these shows about orphans? Like literally everything on Disney was about orphans. Like the biggest show was Annie. As a young boy, I was like, why? This little redheaded girl running around, Annie? Like,
right.
Why is this orphan thing? And we know in black magic rituals, they always do that. Like whatever the torture was, whatever the thing was, they're always showing it back to you, I
mean, look at all the Disney movies, the amount of times that a parent is killed and then like the Bambi has to be by himself or another, like the being has to go off by themselves.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you can just look at all the social, like all the economic and social pressures that are engineered that are unnecessary.
Yeah.
That's why I always say to people, I was like, all this stuff is unnecessary.
Right.
There's literally no, like all the economic stuff could be done tomorrow.
Yep.
All the the perceived or the designed, I should say, the engineered lack of things. None of that's actually necessary. Like It's all available. Everything's available right here. It's all engineered. So all this kind of fits with the bad genetics. And by bad genetics, I mean genetics of like beings that I think of what a lot of people are likening to like an NPC.
Yeah.
Isn't necessarily like in a digital computer game. It's literally people who literally only know mammon. They only know the physicality. So you brought up panentheism. That like for them to even consider that is just like, they can't.
Right. They can't even conceive of it.
Like because that heart,
the feeling, the thread that feels
right
through the words.
And then also that in a weird way, by feeling and actually having that heart connection, you're sponsored by benevolence. They don't know that.
Yeah.
Because they're not. So they're a creation. They're absolutely necessary because they're here. I mean, if it's here, it's necessary. But the drive of consumption is primary. And what I think is occurring is like with the AI stuff, I think the ghost in the machine stuff that they've been trying to, program into us forever is a way of keeping the attention away, or a way of normalizing the humans in our life that are like that.
Interesting.
It's literally a way of normalizing us to be like, okay, this person's just a read and react.
Bro, this is making Pluribus, that show we were talking about, a little bit more.
Pluribus to me is the perfect representation of large language modeling.
Well, especially as it relates to what you're getting at, because like you see this split right now amongst mankind. I'm speaking very generally, where there are those of us who are sort of coming to understand that like, oh, telepathy might be a fundamental aspect of human beings innately, organically, that we've been conditioned to believe is not there, right? And of course, like it takes work in order to access something like that. It's not a quick fix. Versus those who are obsessed with quote unquote technological advancements are going towards a path where it's like, oh, there'll be millimeter wave sensors everywhere. I'll have something implanted into my brain. I'll instantly be able to connect to quote unquote objective knowledge through AI and receive information that way, and then communicate it to my other friend who has the implant in them. Those people seem like they're the ones that you're referring to with respect, not exclusively. There might be some who are tricked to that degree that like a soul, a unique expression inside of them. But it seems like largely those people will be like the Pluribus types, where it's like they all do have quite literally one mind.
Yes.
That is hooked up to AI and pulling quote unquote what they think is objective information from AI.
Right. And that's all going to be incentivized with the new financial.
Yeah.
That whole move is going to be the move away from, actual value that you can hold in your hand relative to the digital numbers.
Yeah.
It's all going to be incentivized in that direction.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing. Pluribus was really kind of cool for me to watch. My family really enjoyed it. It was something that we could watch with my daughter, and she's so little that explaining like some of the nuance to it, she found it kind of boring,
Yeah.
But just the most impactful scene of that whole show is that young woman that was from that small little Peruvian town. And they start the show off and they just show how beautiful and individuated that town was.
Yeah.
And then she takes the shot, and then you come to find that they were only doing that to keep her comfortable, because the AI can't disrupt. The AI wants you to be happy.
Yeah.
But it wants you to be happy, but like the protagonist is trying to saying, you don't love me if you want me to do something against my will. And it keeps trying to convince her, no, but it's so much better on the other side.
Right.
It's the perfect analogy for the tech. It really is the technocrat's wet dream.
It is, man. God, I can't wait for season 2 for that show. That show is so good.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah, it was one of those like Apple, between doing Severance and Pluribus, they're bringing out some like really, really big things.
They're revealing a lot. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Like Severance was another good one. That was like, oh my gosh. Kylie and I watching both, we're finding so many threads like with how we see things rolling out in the future. And then also what's happened. It's like, oh my gosh, that relates to that. That relates to that.
Mm-hmm.
It was good.
That's why I'm into dirt, man. It's really why I'm into dirt. Because I gotta say, like, I was like, kind of like a metrosexual coming up, because I grew up in an urban environment.
Yeah.
I wasn't into, the only fields I ever saw were like football fields or soccer fields or whatever. And it was like, my life really changed when I was able to like get out into nature, like real nature, and get in the earth and like build with earth and like have the earth element reinstated. And it completely rewired me to the point where I won't fall for the digital addiction. Like because it doesn't feel good.
No.
It's like one of those things where like when you're in it long enough, you forget what it feels like to feel good. And then you're like, my body grounds, my alkalinity in my system changes. And I'm like, oh.
Well, especially with like how much social media these days, I've said this on so many shows and it's almost cliche at this point, but I can't stop thinking about it. You and I were talking about that. Like, even for those of us who quote unquote consider ourselves awake, the degree to which this is programming our thought and our perception of the physical world around us cannot be understated. Like that is the piece with social media. And it's such an ironic thing, man, because like I'm grateful for it because of my podcast. I get to do things like this. I get to have conversations like this where people consume it on these platforms. I find other people to interact with and relate to and learn from because of these platforms. And if I'm being honest, bro, I said this to Kylie a number of times. If I didn't have my business online, or if I didn't have like my way to reach people with a message online, I would throw my phone so fucking far away. Like I want nothing to do with it, dude. Like that's one of the biggest things that has frustrated me that we were talking about before this episode is like, I have 800 unread text messages right now. I can't even be bothered, dude. I don't want to be on my phone, you know? And it's like such a weird thing where the world is going that way so much. So in order, it's such a balancing act, you know?
It is.
Yeah.
It definitely is. Yeah. It's one of those things, man. Just got to get in the dirt.
Yeah.
For me, like, at least for me, like the way I'm wired as like somebody that has a lot of fire and earth in my physical constitution, along with like the watery mind, like I find myself in a lot of mud. I build with a lot of mud and cob. And that's like, to me, it's like such a relief. My wife finds it with horses, like touching big animals for her is like the thing that like discharges the positive ionization. I think each one of us has to find a way to discharge all the positive ionization, because in cityscapes and any time where you're constantly being bombarded by this EMF smog, it's gonna wear on your body. And it's kind of interesting now. Like it's harder and harder to find areas that don't have it.
We live out in the boonies, which I appreciate, but even then, like we're so relatively close to Austin. It's like, are we really that distant from it? You know?
Yeah, I don't think people can really run from it. I was in the middle of the rainforest when we had it.
That's crazy.
So for me, I'm
That's crazy. And if what Sabrina Wallace's work is indicating is true, it's like you really can't.
I don't think you can.
No,
I don't think you can.
Yeah,
like what my shaman friend saw, I think is true.
Yeah,
there's this whatever is being emitted is falling on us, and it's falling on every inch, and so you literally had to create these bubbles that protect.
BioChar.
Yeah. And I've always given ways in which people can make their own. So I don't feel bad about talking about like, making these pillars of silence with the BioChar. I'm having a second interview with Kevin where we're going to release the diagram of like how to go. We're going to use my property as a test case and show exactly how to do it. And it's just like a way people in like the land sovereignty movement and the allodial title movement, it's very similar to like establishing a monastery.
It is. It's like energetically doing it because I feel like you have to kind of do it at all levels. Yes, the paperwork is one portion, but in order to reclaim the metaphysical sovereignty, this is a separate way to do it.
Right.
That's just as important, if not more important, in my opinion.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that whole process. So we're going to be actually the workshop that I'm going to do at our little festival after Confluence, the Elementals Festival that we're having, that you were going to come to.
If I have a trip to Hawaii, I can't say, dude, it's our 10-year wedding anniversary. I got to do that.
That's perfect. My wife would be like, we're going to.
Yeah.
No, I get it, man.
We're going to Central Missouri.
No.
I love Central Missouri. By the way, I grew up in Kansas City. So like for me, I love that area. I grew up going to Table Rock Lake.
Nice.
Yeah.
I gotta say, Kansas City's an underrated city.
Dude, Kansas City is dope.
It's awesome.
It really is, man. Cause it's like, it's a Midwestern sort of, there's Southern hospitality. There's Midwestern hospitality too. It like has a Midwestern vibe in just enough city, but not too much city.
I just like the rolling hills there. The food's great.
Yeah,
the people are
food is
great.
amazing. Yes.
And I'm just like, this is like, I had no idea.
Hidden gem, man. Well, it's becoming less and less hidden, but
yeah,
hidden gem.
That's about 4 hours north of us. We're down in the sticks in the Ozarks, but where we're having our festival, one of the workshops that we're going to do, and Chris Winters is going to be doing a workshop on his electroculture.
Cool.
Field broadcasters. I'm going to be doing a biochar workshop, and if Owen gives us the permission, I'm going to we'll do the pillars there. But it's like one of those things where I really appreciated learning from the creditors I knew about the walking the perimeter of the land, establishing the boundary, the perimeter, claiming the land and being the steward of the land and claiming the jurisdiction with your creator and all that. I think it's a beautiful process.
You just need to be linked up with someone who's a loyal or a true expert in land patents.
Yeah, I have no idea.
That's what you need to do is find someone you do the energetic piece and then they have the land patent process piece. Mm-hmm. Marry that together. There you go.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then sell a course on it. So I could be on my phone every day.
Sounds like a nightmare.
Yeah. I feel like, my mother's worst nightmare was that I would dig ditches and be a dirt bag. And I'm literally I dig ditches and I'm a dirt bagger. Like the super Adobe that I build with, it's like I'm filling bags with dirt and building. Yeah. And I had a good laugh with my mom about that because I'm trying to teach her and her husband about grounding and stuff like that. And I'm like, Mom, all those things that you told me I shouldn't do or you didn't want me to do, it's panning out, don't you think? And she, she's had her fantasies about me being in the world or whatever. But it's a necessary thing now. I think it's much more necessary than I was aware of when it first started coming.
Yeah.
And now with Sabrina's education and Chris's education, I'm like, oh, okay. And then just seeing the brilliance of God's surprises of being like, no, you're going to be in the center of the center. You're going to be converting all this biomass. Let's go. This has to go now. This has to happen.
Epic, man.
Yeah.
Epic. Well, biochar sounds incredible. So yeah, anyone who's listening and watching, head to the show notes, check out Black Gold BioChar. Topher, it's always a pleasure talking with you, man.
Great seeing you, Alec.
It's funny because I never know for sure where the conversation is going to go, but it always turns out to be epic.
Yeah, don't need to.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. Well, when the heart's open, it just flows.
Amen.
Yep.